Open Minds Media. The reality we live in can be a very strange place. Most of the time, fact being stranger than fiction. How will we ever start to understand this reality we live in unless we question everything? Join me and a guest as we unravel the mysteries of this reality, one topic at a time. This is Inquiries of Our Reality with Shayn Jones.
What is up, Inquirers, and welcome to the expanse of deep, open-minded conversation. I'm the one they call Shayn, and in today's episode, we hop back into the world of the paranormal through a bunch of interesting paranormal investigating stories, and of course, with some fun conversation along the way. This one, of course, runs pretty long, so I'm going to try to do the front of house stuff as fast as possible on this one. Guys, don't forget to come and visit me at Small Town Monster Fest. That'll be happening June 29th in downtown Canton, Ohio, at the Doubletree by Hilton. Kids 12 and under are free. Everybody else, you guys will have to make sure you scoop a ticket. There's going to be the full OMM team there, meaning that I'm going to be there, Orin's going to be there, Ryley will actually be helping me vend at the table. We'll also have Jenny, we'll have Gabby, we'll have the kids. It's going to be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to it. Hoping to see a lot of you guys out there. And if anybody is planning on coming out there, don't forget to shoot me a message. Let me know that you're coming, because I'd love to be able to know you by name and by face, of course, before I even see you out there. And hopefully afterwards we'll have somewhat of an after party. So maybe we can hang out with you guys then if we're not able to hang out during the convention, because conventions, of course, get busy. But I'm excited to see you guys there all the same. And moving into the front of house stuff, if you guys enjoyed the show and you guys think I've earned it, don't forget to leave that 5-star review for the show on iTunes and on Spotify. Greatly appreciate it. Pushes the show up in the algorithms, makes it so the show can continue to keep growing and expanding. And the only way it's going to happen is with your guys' help. So whatever you guys do, greatly appreciate it. If you think I deserve that 5-star review, please don't hesitate to leave it. And if you leave a 5-star review on iTunes or leave some type of typed out review, then I will read it on the show, of course, and give you a big shout out. And don't forget to go and follow Inquiries of Our Reality and Open Minds Media on Instagram and on Facebook. And while you're at it, don't forget to go and check out Open Minds Media on Discord for the awesome community that is slowly expanding every day with all you guys joining, and Ryley, Orin, and all the Open Minds Media team, of course. And for video content, you guys can always go and check out the shows on the Open Minds Media YouTube and on Discord. Something that I recently started doing is putting up wavelength versions of the episodes onto YouTube. So if you're somebody that prefers YouTube over the podcatchers, you guys can now go and listen to Inquiries of Our Reality and Bizarre Encounters over in the Open Minds Media YouTube. And speaking of other shows, don't forget to go and check out Bizarre Encounters, my other show that I do with Orin, my awesome co-host, where we deep dive into a lot of fascinating stuff. We've been deep diving into a lot of the bizarre, obscure stuff that not a lot of shows cover recently. It's been a lot of fun looking up local folklore, kind of going all over the world. So if you guys are interested in stuff like that, don't forget to go and check that show out. And while you're checking that show out, Bizarre Inquiries is back up and running. We've dropped a couple new episodes of that already. I have been putting those onto the normal feed so you guys can check them out, and then those will end up going back to the Patreon. But as of right now, you guys can go and check out Bizarre Encounters on YouTube and on the normal feed. And if you guys have any questions that you guys would like to submit, I would definitely appreciate it so that we can talk about them on future episodes of the show. And if anybody's had an encounter they'd like to report, you guys can report those to ommencounterreports at outlook.com, or you guys can go to the link tree, fill the submission form, and there is a specific submission form for that, and then the other one is just to contact me in general. But I don't care how big, I don't care how small your experience is, whether it's UFO, cryptid, alien-related, anything like that, or paranormal, of course. Report those encounters, and if I get enough of them, I'd like to do an episode where Orin and I deep dive into some of your guys' personal experiences. So you guys can either type them out, or you guys can record yourself on your phone, and you guys can send that to me by email. If you're also somebody that just wants somebody to talk about your experiences with, but you don't want to put out anywhere, that's totally okay too. We're always here for that too. We'll just be a listening ear and not look at you like you're crazy, of course. And depending on how far you are, you may even be able to come out and investigate it, but none of that will happen unless you report those encounters to OMM Encounter Reports at outlook.com. And if you guys want to support the show, you guys can do so through the Open Minds Media Patreon. I recently updated those tiers a couple weeks ago again because I had to switch over from Riverside to Zoom again. So the benefits have changed. So make sure you guys go and check those out. Even if you're already an existing Patreon member, just to go and double check back through the benefits that I offer over there. And there is also a 7-day free trial for the $3 tier and the $5 tier. So always worth going and checking out to see if you guys are interested in the Patreon in general. And the other way you guys can support the show is through the Open Minds Media merch store. If you guys use Cryptid10, you guys can get 10% off your orders. Still running that promotion, of course. And if you guys join the Patreon, there is specific discount codes depending on which tier you pick. So even if you are an existing Patreon member, don't forget to use those because those always are there and available, of course. And if anybody is interested in podcast or audiobook production services, you guys can shoot me a message through Open Minds Media. Whether you're somebody that just started a podcast or you're somebody that's been doing it for a while and you want to make your job a little bit easier, I'm here to be able to help out with that. If you're an author and you want to have an audiobook produced, something new that I'm trying to do, I'm always here to try to discuss that and figure that out because I would absolutely love to be able to do some audiobooks for some of you guys and be able to help out more with some of the finances around the house and hopefully, again, get to the point where I could podcast full time because that would be absolutely fantastic. And of course, everybody wants to live their dream. And my dream just happens to be producing awesome podcast for you guys. And of course, got to give some shout outs to all of the sponsors for the show in the community. So guys, don't forget to go and check out I Know Squatch for all of your squatchy gear needs. And you guys can also check out Joe over there at Cryptoteology for all of your wearable cryptid favorites. And you guys can check out Snarly Yow for a fantastic smoky cedar with a hint of mint, beard oil, beard balm, body wash, and beard shampoo. And he also throws on a bunch of fantastic events near the West Virginia area, one of which is the Cryptid Halloween event that Orin and I will be speaking at and emceeing this year. But he puts on a plethora of other events throughout the year. So if you guys are near the West Virginia area, don't forget to go and check those out. Dave is one of the best people that I could possibly imagine in the community, super duper friendly. So he gravitates an awesome group of people around him, and all of his events are family friendly, so you guys can bring the kids to them, go and hang out, have a good day out there in West Virginia. So make sure you guys check the calendar, see if there's anything going on near you. And moving into the affiliate links, don't forget to go and check out the newest sponsor of the show, Oregon-ite, so for some of his fantastic pieces that are essentially intended to take in negative energy and put out positive energy. There's a lot more information for that on the page, so make sure you guys go and check that out. And if you guys want to scoop one of his fantastic pieces, you guys can use code OMM at checkout for 10% off. To all of my paranormal investigators out there, if you guys haven't already checked out the Chattergeist, highly recommend that you do. It's my personal favorite paranormal investigating device. I use it every single time that I go out. Barry over there on Dimension Devices is the one who programmed and developed it. So if you guys have any questions about it whatsoever, as far as technical questions go, you guys can hit up Barry over there on Instagram. He is the one that runs the page, of course. And he's always trying to make new patches, new extensions, a bunch of new stuff for this thing. So you don't have to worry about it going out of date, because he isn't planning on keeping it around for as long as possible and just adding new modifications to it. And if you guys decide you guys want to scoop one for yourself, if you guys use the affiliate link, you will receive 10% off at checkout. And don't be discouraged that it's in pounds. The company is based in the UK, but everything does convert over through PayPal. So don't think that you can't purchase one just because you don't live in the UK. And every single thing that I mention is all available in the link tree, which is available down in the show description. And with that, let's get into the show. Please welcome to the show, paranormal investigator and medium, Brie Hollingshead. How's it going today?
It is going really well. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Happy that we're finally able to make this work after technical issues the last couple times we tried. We were both literally sitting at the computer trying to get this stuff to work the last two times, and just something came up. That's how it usually goes. But when that kind of stuff happens, I feel like it usually happens for a reason. And that being said, there's probably something that happened within the past week or two that we're probably going to end up getting into. So I'm going to hope that was the case.
Oh my gosh. You know what? It's actually better that we're having this conversation now, because there's so much coming down the pipeline that has just transpired in like the last couple weeks, that the fact that I'm actually going to be able to share a lot of this stuff with you is quite exciting. So,
well, perfect. I guess it worked out for a reason then.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason. That's what I always tell everybody. You can't be upset. I mean, I won't lie. I sometimes get upset, but you can't let it bother you for too long, because you got to look, everything happens for a specific reason. You know, like you might not find out right away, but when the dots connect, you're going to be like, oh, okay, now I get it. Like,
I talk about all the time on the show, the extended idea that like something bad happens right now, but if that bad thing didn't happen, it wouldn't have led to something really good later on. And when you're in this situation, obviously, it's like it's hard to say, oh, this is going to turn something good if something awful happens. But more than often, it's like down the road, there's some great thing that happened that would have never happened if that bad thing didn't happen to you. So again, it kind of gets me through life, at least, just trying to believe everything happens for somewhat of a reaon.
Oh yeah, I mean, and if you were to really like sit and take a look at stuff though, like the way things line up, like okay, like a weird one I'll talk about is my relationship with Nick. So this time last year, so like for those who don't know, like Nick is actually like the creator and founder of the Bell Mansion here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So he's no longer associated. They did have a parting of ways about over a year ago at this point, and my kitten, of course, wants attention. So he has weird mommy separation anxiety. Like I can't even go outside to like the garage. Like he will sit at the kitchen door and like scream his head off at me. Like I'll be on the phone and people are like, "What is that? Are you killing something?" And I'm like, "No, that's my cat yelling at me to come back in the house." Okay, sorry.
That's a common thing amongst the show. Usually it's either the guest or me. We end up having a cat jump up on our lap. And I mean, it was one of my first episodes I was recording, and I used to have a shelf behind my head, and I had one of my cats knock that over and almost take me out on a show. So the show has a long history of having cats pop on the air while we're recording.
It's like tradition. Like, you know, something's not right if a cat doesn't show up. So
yeah, that means something's off in the house, especially if they're one of the cats that gravitates towards you. If they're not around you, you're like, all right, what's going on here? They're either getting into something or they're chasing something around the house.
Exactly, or something's chasing them.
Ooh.
And see, and like here with our house, like we live like on a paranormal highway, so it's like we constantly have stuff coming and going. Plus, like the office I'm in is actually full of haunted objects, which I can tell you about in a little bit. But yeah, like with Nick, like they, you know, he was dating the manager now that's there. And, you know, so they had a parting of ways, and his team, Old World Paranormal Society, they're no longer there. At the same time, I'm actually separating from my then husband and filing for disillusionment paperwork on our marriage. And we actually were supposed to have met 3 different occasions last summer. It was through my divorce that my children encouraged me to get into the paranormal. Like, why don't you start going to events? Why don't you start, you know, pursuing this? Because I raised them watching like the OG shows. Like my boys were watching like Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, Paranormal State, Haunted Collector, like all the OG stuff, right? And they're like, go to these events, Mom. And, you know, like, we'll go with you if we're able to, if we're not working, and, you know, start pursuing it. And so, like, I did. And, like, I actually went to Parapsychon last year. And then I went to FCI, which is the Fairfield County Infirmary. I went to their Paracon. And I went on my first public hunt. And then I went down for my second public investigation event. And at the time I lived in southern Ohio, down in Wilmington, which is like 45 minutes southeast of Cincinnati. Sorry, I had to like think for a second like where it was. And so I drove down to Wilmington, North Carolina, ironically, for my second event. But while I was going down, I had stopped at a rest stop, and it was right outside of Point Pleasant. And I heard this voice telling me, you need to make this memorable. You need to take your time on this trip and have fun with it. Make it memorable. Think of outside of the box. What can you do? And I'm like, okay, for one, I'm in my car by myself, and this is sounding like somebody sitting like next to me, you know? And I'm like, all right. So I start thinking about it, and I'm still hearing this voice, and I'm like, I'm right outside of Point Pleasant. Let's go rub Mothman's shiny hiney. Let's kick off the trip.
I still have yet to do that. I'm going to make it there one day, but I'm still yet to touch the Mothman's butt.
Oh, yeah. You might want to sanitize afterwards, because I've seen some stuff that people have posted that they've done to that hiney, and it kind of, I feel like I need to go wash my hands like 50 more times and dump a bottle of Purell.
I'm going to do the FBI agent thing. I'm just going to swiftly pull the little latex glove out of my back pocket and slowly slide it on and touch the butt.
Yeah.
I'm going to give him a colonoscopy.
They're like,
yeah, prostate exam. That's what it is. I'm going to give him a quick prostate exam with the glove.
Now that would be, you're going to have somebody film it because that will be absolutely epic if you can pull that off. I will.
I really hope that I can find the live footage from the Mothman Museum, so it's totally out of context and it's just some random guy coming up with a surgical glove and poking the Mothman in his butthole.
Oh, that would be amazing. Absolutely amazing. But yeah, so like I went and I did the Mothman, and then it was Friday because I drove down. It was supposed to be like a 12-hour drive, so I took the Friday off work. And I'm driving down, and Project Fear is on their second YouTube video with their new project, and they're releasing like the sleeping arrangements at Sweet Springs, and I'm like, let me go find Sweet Springs, it's on the way. And I saw it from the side. I took a wrong turn. I got to see it from the side. Let me tell you, if you go there, you will have no phone reception, and you will probably hear playing somewhere in the background.
We're at the corner of buttfuck, and you got a pert of math.
You're right. I mean, I'm like pulling out, and my GPS is not working, and I'm like, ugh. The exit that you take to get off says no re-entry, and so I'm like, I have no clue. Like, I can't call anybody. My phone's in literal SOS. I mean, I could call 911 if I need to. But I'm like, this is horrible. Like, I don't know where I'm at. We don't have paper maps anymore, so it's like I can just like shake it out, you know, and like figure out where I'm at. Like, I'm literally at the mercy of like, okay, am I good with my, you know, am I good with sensing my direction? And so like I backtracked, and I was like, hey, I have a feeling if I go down this road far enough, it's gonna like reconnect somewhere with the interstate, and thank God it did. But yeah, I did the ship, and then on the way back, I hit spooky. My good friends with Spooky Appalachia, they reached out to me, and they're like, we've got 2 locations you've got to hit. So I hit St. Albans, did a walk around St. Albans, and then I got to Trans-Allegheny, but they had the gates closed, so I didn't even like attempt walking on the property because I wasn't sure. I was like looking at all the cameras, and I'm like, ain't risking that. Nope. But
that's what the mask is for.
Yeah, so I was like, hey, I at least got pictures, got home. But you know, like Nick and I were supposed to meet, you know, 3 different occasions after that, and we never crossed paths up until I was at MadCon, and he happened to be at MadCon. He wasn't there as a vendor for Old World. Ironically, we actually laughed about this a lot. He drove to MadCon to meet somebody else, but like when he met her, he was like, the vibe wasn't there. Like he was like, I hugged her and it felt like hugging my sister. Like that could be awkward.
Yeah,
like,
just a bit.
I mean, I get it because I've hugged a guy before and been like, ooh, like, and then I'm like, hey, bro, like, I'm hoping they catch on. But so like, you know, we got to talking and stuff, and he gave me his business card, and he's like, love to have you on the podcast. You know, give me a call, and I'm like, all right. And he's like, give me a call this week, and I'm like, all right. Every single day I went to call him, something happened. I wasn't able to, and till like 10 o'clock at night. And I'm like, I don't know this guy that personally. Like, we just met. I'm not going to call at 10 o'clock at night. Like that, I felt that would be rude. And I'm not going to text either. So like I'm driving to my next Paracon the following weekend, which was the Rock Island YMCA Paracon, which is now the Rock Island. I think they renamed it to the Roadhouse. They had some legal stuff going on there with the naming, but, and like I'm driving, and like I hear this voice, you should get a hold of Nick. And I'm like, yeah, I could totally do that. I've got like 9 hours to kill. Why not? Like I'll give him a call. It goes straight to, it ends up going to voicemail. I leave a voicemail. I never leave voicemail. I hate voicemail. I even listen to my own. Like if I call you and it hits voicemail, I'm hanging up and texting you. I just called you, you know, like, I don't like listening to my own. I'm not gonna freaking make you want to poke your eardrums either, you know, like, no. But so I'm like, okay, I left a message. She's got my name, my number, and I'm just driving along and, you know, going through Indiana, and there's a voice again. You need to text him. I'm not texting him. Like, literally, I'm arguing with this, like, voice for like 10, 15 minutes. You need to text him. I texted him, and we ended up voice texting each other for the rest of the day. We met up in person the following day, and Nick and I have literally been inseparable since.
Well, that's awesome.
So, you know, everything happens for a reason. And, you know, if that is not case in point, like one of the most valid case in points, like, I don't know what is, you know. And I know if we had met up at any of the other times during the summer, it wouldn't have worked because literally, like, I was still in the process of finding me and, you know, and like getting back to who I am and pursuing my love and learning to love myself again, because the marriage I just came out of was extremely abusive. You know, and had made me doubt a lot of stuff and question almost everything in my life. And so I was still finding everything, and come to find out he was still doing the same thing on his end, you know, coming out of his breakup. So, you know, could it have maybe worked out eventually if we had met sooner? I don't know. I don't think it would have worked out the way that it should have, though. You know, and everything is going to work out the way that it should right when it's supposed to. You just got to make sure you're paying attention.
Exactly. I completely agree.
So,
I've had countless experiences that have kind of fell perfectly like that. Like even my girl and I getting together, it seems like all the relationship stuff seems to kind of fall into the perfect place, the perfect time when it's supposed to. And if you have to force it, it seems like it's not going to work out that well anyway. So
exactly. And I don't want something, I've been in those already. I don't want to force anything else. I mean, I'll be honest, I'll be 44 in September. I'm done forcing. If I gotta try to force a square peg into a circle, like hole, like no,
not even worth the time.
I got better things to waste my time on, in all honesty, which is, I'm not wasting time right now, but I feel like I don't have enough time with everything that's going on in my life. Yeah, it's just, life's been real crazy, but yeah, so that's, not only do we get a good example of how everything happens for a reason, but yeah, now you know how I got involved in the paranormal. I mean, I've been dealing with the paranormal since I was 6. As you said, I'm a medium, and I did grow up with abilities. I saw my first full body apparition when I was 6. I grew up in a 1-bedroom home. It's one of the original buildings in a small, well, now it's actually the city of Groveport, I believe, but when I was growing up, it was small enough. It was just the village of Groveport. In Ohio, which is about 15 minutes east of Rickenbacker Air Force Base, if anybody knows where that's at. And I rolled over. I woke up in the middle of the night, and my bedroom was upstairs. I had the one big bedroom, and it had twin beds in it. And my parents, their bedroom was downstairs in the dining room, and I had twin baby brothers at the time, and their cribs were right there with my parents. And we had one of those old 1800 like tiny wooden curving staircases. So my mom would always keep the closet light on in like the bathroom closet for me, make sure I didn't fall, because let's be honest, I trip on flat surfaces and I choke on air.
Those things are dangerous anyways. As cool as they are, they're dangerous.
Oh, they are. And it's got like the old wall, like plaster walls still. And I mean, like, they, in the 70s, when they did a slight remodel, they built a closet under the stairs. So like part of the stairs is like it's closed off. But I still had a friend in elementary school fall down these stairs. We were running up and down the stairs, and she slid and fell and broke her damn arm. So yeah, so I mean, good thing my mom had the light on for me, because I can only imagine I probably would have broke my neck. But so she had the light on in the bathroom closet, and I had woken up in the middle of the night, and I rolled over, and as I'm rolling over, I'm seeing what I believe is my mom sitting on the edge of the other twin bed, and that twin bed is covered with every stuffed animal known to mankind, because evidently that's what little girls are missing in their life, is stuffed animals. So,
can't have enough.
Right, you can never have enough.
Ask my daughter. She still doesn't have enough, and she almost has a room full of them.
Oh yeah, that's my daughter too. She's 8, and I'm like, and she's like, they've got Squishimals, and I'm like,
Same thing with my
"What's
daughter,
that?"
same age also. So
Yeah, like, and they've got the little one. They got the key. I mean, I'm like, what happened to TY? Now we've got things that squish. Like, I am so not up. Like, I had boys before you. Granted, like you were the my unexpected blessing, but still, like, it's still an adjustment because I'm used to GI Joe and Trans. You want to talk Transformers? Let's go, Bumblebee all day. You know, like. Little girls, they've got 40 freaking pieces for one damn doll. I don't remember it being that way when I was growing up. The doll had like a hairbrush and a pair of shoes, you know? Like these dolls now can like twist and contort and they're bendy in places I didn't think dolls were supposed to bend, you know? But so I roll over and I'm looking at what I believe is the back of my mom. She's got the flannel nightgown on. My mom would always wear her hair up like in an 8 bun. She's got her hair clipped. And I'm getting ready to ask my mom, like, why are you sitting over there? Because I've woken up middle of the night before, and it was, you know, my mom checking on me in the middle of the night, sitting on the edge of my bed, not the other twin bed. I open my mouth, and she starts to turn her head. And as she's turning her head, the light comes in, is like the light that's coming in from the doorway, shines through her face. And I realize I can see the 1970s solid oak, you know, mirror with all the shelves like they used to do, like those old sturdy pieces of like dresser.
mm-hmm.
I'm seeing this through her face and I'm like, okay, roll back over, pulled the covers over my head, went back to sleep. I know, I'm so weird. I didn't even scream.
It's one of those like moments of fear though that you don't know how to react, so you almost just go into like autopilot. Like you'd be surprised how many people just kind of react by not reacting. Like,
yeah, because you're just like, you go into shock and you're like, no, and I have recently experienced something like that at Hinsdale. I'll have to share that with you because that's just crazy. But yeah, so like I pulled the cover over my heads, like I got more than one. I speak I'm so sleep deprived right now. It's not even funny, you guys. So I wake up the next morning, I go downstairs, and I'm telling my mom about it. And she pulls a picture out, and it's my great-grandmother that I was seeing. Now, my great-grandmother had no tie to this house. The last time I saw her, I was a year and a half when I almost killed myself walking into one of the pedestals at her funeral. The pedestal started wobbling, and a vase almost like came crashing down on me. So, like, yeah, that would have been really awkward. I mean, good place for it to happen, but still. Like, what happened to your daughter? Oh, we were seeing my grandma and vase fell over and killed her. You know, like, that's morbid. Like, my mom would joke about that when I was a teenager. I'm like, really? Like,
seeing the dead and becoming the dead, you know, no big deal.
I mean, no wonder I'm sick and twisted with my humor half the time. Jesus, I got it from her. But it's.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. And we are back. So let's hop right in.
Yeah. So like, and after that, I started seeing more. I started having very vivid dreams of different things. And and my mom was gifted too. But as I got older, going through traumatic relationships, you know, they, in parapsychology, they will tell you trauma can either open you up or close you off, because with the closing off, you're building those mental walls to psychologically protect yourself. And that's what happened with me. I built the walls. So, with me going through the paranormal, slowly but surely, like those walls have been coming down, and, you know, I could go into locations in the fall and, it might sound morbid and disrespectful, but in no way, shape, or form do I mean it that way. I could go into like a historically haunted location. I call them dead locations because they speak to me. The dead speaks to me. I could tell you somebody was in there. I could tell you how many people were in a room. Could I have a conversation? Not really, but you know, even the building would speak, you know, like I could see things, not fully understanding. And then in January, because I also do a TV, like a show, Remotely Paranormal, with Chris Smith. who, if anybody's seen Hulu's Monster Inside, Chris Smith actually does the main narration throughout the whole show. And it's about Russ McKamey with McKamey Manor, the extreme haunts.
That place is beyond sketchy. Like, I'm more scared of that place than a haunted house. Like, I'm pretty sure that dude was selling those tapes to the dark web. Like, that dude was weird on a whole other level.
No, he did.
I was calling that from the very first time I heard about McKinney Manor. I'm like, this guy is selling the tapes, and he's only taking dog food in. Like, there's no way this dude's not making money on the back end. He is selling that shit to the dark web, and people are getting off on that weird shit.
Okay, so there's so much information that I know, and I gotta remember what I can and can't say. So, the Attorney General of Tennessee is actually investigating into Russ's McKinney Manor. And Russ is going after certain people that were on Monster Inside. And, people are having to take a back seat. Things are having to be quiet because of legal reasons. So I actually have to watch what I say out of respect to Chris. Chris is actually going to be taking a sabbatical, unfortunately, from Remotely Paranormal because of all the stuff legally that's going on with McKamey Manor.
It's kind of messed up that every time these messed up people get exposed, it turns into a lawsuit even for the people that were trying to do the good deed.
Right, yeah, and that's the bad thing is he thinks he's getting ahead of the situation, and in honesty, all he's doing is he's prolonging the inevitable is what he's doing. It's kind of like when somebody goes to rob a bank and then they're like, crap, they freak out and they take all the hostages. Like, you already know you're in a crap load of trouble, just own your mistake, like
before you make it worse for yourself.
Yeah, you're adding charges to it. Like, just suck it up, do what you got to do. And he's not. He's wasting time. He's wasting taxpayer money, which that should be pissing the people off in Tennessee that are, paying attention to this. But so Chris had actually reached out to me last October and was like, "Hey, I think we should do a collaboration together." And we did. I actually went to Michigan and went to like 2 Halloween haunts, not extreme haunts, but 2 Halloween haunts with them. Actually did Eloise Asylum, which was cool because he got the VIP ticket. So we were able to actually go into the basement of Eloise, which when you investigate, you can't get into because it's all set up for the Halloween stuff. They've actually got it closed off to the public.
I actually urban explored that place like 12 years ago before they even turned it into a haunted house because I'm from Michigan. I'm near the Detroit area. So yeah, awesome. I went into that place when it was like the offices in the one side and then the other building was completely abandoned. So like, yeah, then they turned it into the haunted house and obviously you can't get in there now. But yeah, that was one of those like legendary places. But now like I feel like it doesn't have the same ambiance when it's not like an abandoned building. Like I don't know, it's just different feel to it,
Oh yeah, I mean because I've been like last fall I did a 3-week trip to the East Coast, and I got a chance to get inside of Letchworth Village and walk around. But I was able to go inside some of the buildings. I ran live for about an hour and a half, and people on the live were like, "Go in," and I'm like, "I can't break the law. Not gonna do it. I got to be respectful." But and I was respectful. As soon as I got off the live though, that's when I did go and I
no video proof of what happened.
Well, the cops, like the police station's like right there, and they had cops and on the East Coast they take these locations and they turn them into like city parks.
They did the same thing with Northville, which was like my whole story about my weird paranormal / cryptid experience was at Northville, and it was right next to a police station, and then they ended up tearing it down and turning it into like a park or something recently.
Yeah, it's like, it makes me so mad. Like, why are we just letting these buildings like degrade and on themselves? Like, if you've got the money to maintain it as a park, why can't we take that same preservation money and say, okay, well, let's take so much of this and let's start focusing on rehabilitation on some of these buildings, because these are historical landmarks. Because if you don't know the history of Letchworth Village actually started operation in between 1908 and 1911. And what they did is they actually had a higher population of women and children for the mentally ill. And they openly admitted that they were using the patients there as basically your guinea pigs, your mice in a laboratory, for drug trials. And in 1957, I want to say it was 1957, the first dose of the polio vaccination was successfully administered to an 8-year-old boy. So it's really messed up and it's really sad, the history that is behind it. But there's also, I mean, there are light, positivity, things that are beneficial now to society. Now, would we let that type of stuff happen now? No. Were they able to shut it down? Yes. And I think it's good. Letchworth Village at one point had over 150 buildings on, I think, close to 900 acres, if memory serves correctly. I hit up a bunch, like in 1 week, I did nothing but like the asylums and the hospitals. So like I did, I think it's called Fairfield Hills, like, and it's now, the city has now overtaken it and like they've refurbished some of the buildings for like government offices, like the city offices. And what's ironic and what's funny is that they've got all kinds of reports of paranormal activity coming out of these offices. But then they've got the other buildings that are like fenced off and they're just letting them like just collapse in on themselves. And they still have like the drives, like the streets with the houses that the doctors and the nurses would live in that were working in these buildings. Beautiful, like, duplex homes, but they're not like on top of each other. They're side by sides. Beautiful homes. And they're just letting them just like literally decay in on themselves. And if they fall down, they fall down. It's really sad when you think about it. But yeah, like Letchworth, when I went off camera, I did go into 3 of the buildings, and I'll have to send you this on Instagram. I got my second full-bodied apparition picture. There, one of the main buildings, when you're walking in the park, you can see the metal structure, like where the roof is. You can still see like how ornate it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual roof itself is gone. It's just the metal beams that are still there. And there was a huge chunk of like the fence that was missing, like in the back. And I was like, I just want to kind of take a peek in, just to see, because everything was boarded up, and there was 3 doors that were unboarded, like they weren't kicked in. It was just completely open doorway. And I was like, I just want to take a quick peek. This is definitely structurally not sound. I'm here by myself. I did have Nick on the phone with me, for safety reasons, in case something did happen. But I wanted to take a look at history, like you read about these locations and then getting to see them as an adult and knowing the horrific activities that took place within these confines, especially with the children and the women and how they were just, abused, just horrifically abused, and used for literal lab rats. It just makes you sick. But it's like, I wanted to take a look and just so I could say I saw a piece of history. And I happened to walk in and it led to a hallway, and I was walking down and I had a feeling that somebody was off to my left in a room. And as I'm walking, I stopped and I had my phone and I turned my camera on and snapped a quick picture. And without zooming in, you can see a woman in a 1911 nurse's uniform with the nurse's hat, the poofy sleeves. You can make out her apron, and you can see like where she's at, the top portion of her body is where a window would be. Well, there's no glass. All the glass in the window's busted out and it's boarded over. There's no light coming into this room. And then like where the window ends, you can actually see the dress continues to flow down the tile. Like, and you don't have to zoom in. Like, it's an amazing catch. But it's like, places like that, like, it just breaks my heart. Because, like, on the East Coast, they've got that. They've got Norwich, a state hospital. You've got Medford. Medford's actually boarded up. They, like, that one is so tightly wrapped under lock and key. And Medford's actually used for a lot of Hollywood movies. Like, Shutter Island was actually filmed there.
Oh, like which hospital? The main hospital or the one at the end with all of like the more serious patients, or had that metal spiral staircase?
I'll be honest, that's a movie I'd have to go back to rewatch it so I could be like, that's the building that's used.
That's one of my
But
favorite like mindfuck movies, so I
yeah,
love it.
that's a movie I have to like. I even after because it was a surprise for me getting the chance to go there. I was actually supposed to go to another location, and the person I was collabing with that day they had to reschedule, and so I was like, crap. Well, what's local? And I was like, I can go to Medford. It's a state park. I'm not gonna be able to get in any of the buildings. Not a big deal, but I could do a decent walk around on this location and tell the history and the importance of the location and the movie. I love doing tie-ins when I go on location, like if I'm able to bring horror or even like the music genres, different movie aspects, and like show like the significance to a location, like hey, this isn't just this part in history, but it's been repurposed. Like I've been to theaters where they've got legends and myths. And I love the legends and myth aspect too, because every legend and every myth starts with a piece of fact.
Hmm.
And it's bunny trailing back to finding out where that piece of fact is and finding out what the rest of the story. There's always a piece, there's always a bunny trail. And, if you take the time, I'm sure you could find out a lot of these legends do have a lot of truth to them,
They just
and
get
that's the
expanded like
fascinating.
fisherman tales.
Yeah, it's like playing the telephone game, like, well, my fish was this big. Well, actually, my fish was a 30-pound bass, and I gave it to this girl, Courtney, so hopefully, this will get me a date with her next week. But, it's interesting, so, um, I can't remember how we got on the Letchworth, but yeah, I just start talking sometimes. You gotta tell me to shut
Oh
up.
no,
I'm
it's
like,
okay. I love listening to people. I hate cutting people off in the middle of when they're going on to something. Something cool I want to throw in here. Actually, I don't think I've mentioned on previous episodes, but missed opportunity talk about my main experience that I talk about all the time on the show that happened in Northville Psychiatric Hospital. I'm always trying to explain what this place looks like to people, but I always forget that it was in a movie. Have you ever heard of the movie It Follows?
yeah,
So you know the scene where they're in the car and they're making out, and it's like right before the thing gets transferred over to the girl.
yeah.
That's in the back parking lot of Northville, which was the place that I had some of my experiences at. And that was literally the entrance I used to go into, because right off to the side of where they filmed that, there was a side door that somebody broke the welding off and it led into the morgue. It was like literally right there. And I always
Oh,
forget to tell
wow.
people that they actually used that place for that movie. And I mean, Detroit, they use a lot of these old locations for that, because kind of like what you were explaining with that neighborhood. We had a lot of people that would like work at the car plants, and they used to build like the neighborhoods behind them for all the employees and everything. But when stuff started getting shut down, the neighborhood would get shut down. So we just have burned out neighborhood on neighborhood on neighborhood in Detroit, and it's no different. I'm sure that there's a lot of good paranormal investigating in Detroit to do in these places. But the sad part you kind of fall into with Detroit is, most people think it's like, gang violence, this, that. It's not so much gang violence, it's the crackheads. And the crackheads are wild cards for anybody that, goes
Yeah.
into abandoned locations. It's like the worst thing you could fear and run into is a crackhead, because you don't know how they're going to react when you pop up in their den. So it's like,
Oh,
there's a lot of
yeah.
good places to explore, but the question is, how many crackheads are hiding in there and sleeping?
Yeah, exactly. And are they packing, and are they on a trip at that point? Like what part of their high are they on? Are they coming off where they're violent, or are they in the middle where they're feeling pretty good, and who knows what else they've had and taken, and if they're seeing dragons at this point mating in the corner, like you don't know. And that's how, like at Letchworth, when I was walking down that hall, I started hearing a man cough, and I was like on the phone with Nick, and I'm like, I want to keep, the investigator in me is saying keep going, but I'm hearing a voice telling me to stop, and he's like, listen, you need to listen to your, you're being, your spirit guide's telling you to get out, get out. And so I did.
That's something people don't
But
talk about a lot with paranormal investigating, is it's like you want to hear a noise and you want to get excited and think that it's something paranormal, but it's like more often than not, you do have to take into consideration the fact of like homeless people living in these locations. So it's like,
yeah,
you don't know which gut feeling to trust. Is it something paranormal, or is it literally just some guy hiding around the corner that's a physical person, which is almost more scary than the paranormal half the time?
oh yeah. Well, I mean, even when I was at Letchworth walking around on the path, right before I went live, like I ended up like I called Nick, and I'm like, just stay on the phone with me, and he's like, do you have somebody following you? And I did. I had man following me, like acting like looking at me real weird, acting real like shifty. Um, I took a lot of flack doing a 3-week trip solo as a female. A lot of people were like, what are you packing? You're going into states where they have no gun laws. It doesn't matter if you've got a concealed carry in another state, you can't have anything. And if it's found on you, you're going to Rikers. Like, you can't screw around. Like, this is some heavy stuff. And um, you know, I definitely suggest, females need to get out there and do and be safe and be mindful. Like, I was always mindful of my surroundings. When I would drive to a location, I would screenshot my GPS and send it to Nick, and he knew that if I hadn't texted in the amount of time that it said that I would be there, he was automatically calling me, "Where you at?"
Just to throw it out there, bear mace is legal in most states. So even if you can't carry a gun, at least make sure you got some bear mace on you if you're going to some type of abandoned location.
Oh yeah, and I have a taser now too. So
even better.
I know tasers are completely legal, and the taser I have, it can somebody actually bought it for me, and they sent me the video, like the when they were doing the test on it, and they zapped one person in front, and it was a line of 20 people holding hands, and the whole line of people just went just knocked them all over. So I pity the fool who decides to get in my face and mess with me and piss me off where I have to pull that out. Because if that knocked 20 people out, what's that going to do to one?
You'd be kicking and twitching on the floor looking like a cockroach or something.
The ticks are kicking in, Yeah, you ain't going to do that again, are you? Bye. But, I was talking about my trip in January. That's where all this came from. But yeah, I loved my trip on the East Coast, and I wish that more places would try to rehabilitate. And I wish the cities that are building parks around these locations would try to salvage, because there's a lot of history, and in the last 5 to 10 years, we're watching things get destroyed because it was it's a stain on our past. But the way I look at it is, if we don't have the things to remind us of the bad that's happened, how are we supposed to make sure we don't repeat it?
I mean, it's one of those things too that people have to show more of an interest in, like paranormal vacationing, I guess you could say, being a paranormal tourist, so to speak. Because it's like, everybody hears about these locations. They may not even be far from people's houses, but they just don't think that it's a place they could go. So, I mean, if people like showed an interest to the city with it, saying like, hey, I like paranormal investigating, it'd be cool if you did this, or you had groups of people that are going around. I've talked to a few different people that actually try to go city to city and save some of these locations as like paranormal historical landmarks and stuff. So, I mean, like there's a means of doing it. It's just that like the people that are active and care about that kind of stuff have to try to like show a little bit more interest, at least as far as their local community. Because if everybody's interested in the paranormal, at least try to make an effort in the local community to save some of the buildings. Like, imagine how many paranormal investigation buildings would be saved. And I mean, even if people don't want to, say, hey, city, I want a paranormal place saved. You just say, hey, city, I want this historical landmark saved. And you just start throwing that terminology at them. And once that's thrown around enough, it's one of those things that you can't destroy it if it's a landmark. So, I mean, you just have to keep using the right terminology to save some of these places.
Oh yeah. And you got to think about it. Like, OSR, Ohio State Reformatory, Shawshank Prison. That was actually supposed to have been wrecking balled down and a new prison built on top of it. That was built in the 1800s. It was opened as a reformatory for boys to get them back on the right path who had stepped out of line doing crime, and teach them a trade to make them, able to be sustainable in society once they graduated the reformatory school. And the
name Shawshank Redemption makes a lot more sense now, right?
Yeah. And so, I mean, there's a lot of play with this. And in 1996, guess what, people? OSR was bought for $1. If OSR can be bought for $1, what other and it's now on the National Landmark of Historic Locations. So it's like, how many more locations could we save? And a lot of people are like, but then you've got an empty building, and what are you going to do with this empty building? And it's like, okay, well, then you start figuring out what you can do for for the restoration and the preservation. And, you know, what if you are able to do rehabilitation on the building and get it to where it's slightly functional, even if it's bare boned, like Prospect Place Manor in Trinway, Ohio, I believe it is. You know, they've got small displays throughout it, and you now have where schools can have field trips for historical, hands-on, local education. You've got a place that you can possibly turn it into an event center. It can be self-sustaining. It's all in thinking outside of the box, using, like you said, the right terminology, doing your research and finding out who owns it, what are the plans for it, and guess what? You might be able to save something for just $1.
We will be right back after this brief commercial break, so stay tuned. And we are back, so let's hop right in. I mean, even if you're able to buy it too, I mean, you simply just tell people, hey, if you want to paranormal investigate this place, you're more than welcome to do it. You just sign a waiver saying that you're going in here on your own free will. If anybody gets hurt, it's not your responsibility. And then with the money that you collect from people wanting to do paranormal investigations, use that to turn around and use that as your means of actually trying to, you know, at least fix somewhat of the framework so the building won't collapse, for example. And then you continue on with paranormal investigations, and you just kind of get to the point where you can just slowly, piece by piece, not necessarily change the building, but at least just make it stable enough that people are going to be able to go in it safely and not have a problem. And if you keep building that up enough, then you can get to the point where people can do paranormal tours as like a school or something like that, and not have to worry about anything falling down on them or anything. It's just step by step to get it to that point.
Exactly. And a lot of people don't realize that, because like one thing is that I do with my paranormal trips is I focus on the historical location. And then I highlight the haunting. For me, it's the history. You know, I've like I said, I've dealt with paranormal since I was 6. I'm a full believer. I'm huge in the history and the saving of our history, and the fact that we have hauntings going on in locations that, if you pay attention to the EVPs and the activity that's coming out of these locations, they actually back up the quote unquote legends. They back up the historical rumors of what this place could have been or might have been. And, you know, that's where I think the paranormal is amazing. And it's just the fact that we're able to use another means to prove what a location, what the life was that happened somewhere. You know, it's all in looking outside of the box. You know, like I keep telling people, take your damn box and throw it in the recycling bin. It's all about looking at things from a different perspective. Stop asking the same question. They don't want to know. They don't want to. I can tell you this as a medium going into these locations. They are so tired of being asked, how did you die? What is, you know, like, what is your name? They typically don't mind being asked, because, but make sure that when you're going to a location that you're showing respect and you're introducing yourself. Even if you introduce yourself into every room, introduce yourself to these spirits. A lot of them get really irritated. They feel like they're being disrespected in their own home. And that's why you get the get out. It's not the D word. It's the fact that you're not showing respect to the people. And you got to understand, these could be spirits that are dating back to the 1800s. And if they're dating back to that time frame, how would a female or a male interact in that time frame? You're not just going to barge into somebody's home even nowadays and just start walking through and doing what you want. You're going to be like, hey, man, it's good to see you. You're going to introduce, you know, like if you haven't met the other friend, you're going to introduce yourself. You're going to show respect. And it's about going to these locations. And I will stop if I'm collaborating with other people, and I'll tell them, I'll be like, hey, I'm not trying to be rude, but I think we need to introduce ourselves. Because I can hear it, you know, and I know not everybody with me is able to hear the things that I can hear or see the things that I can see. But, I mean, I've been in locations where people, you know, like, there's like 40, 50 people waiting to talk, wanting to talk. They want to interact. But guess what? Because you're just going in there and throwing your stuff around and acting like you're king of the hill and look at what I can do and everything I got has bells and whistles and lights up and I spent this much money because you're bragging to the other person that's with you. You're not showing respect and they're not really caring to communicate at that point. They're like, nah, why? And if they do, that's when you're like, you hear the, and the FUs, and a lot of it's mimicking and copycatting too, because you got people who are quote unquote investigating and they're going in
I was
and
just
they're
about to mention
being,
that too.
yeah, they're being disrespectful and oh my God, it's the D word. And hey, what's a D?
Even people just making content, they're actually just mixing stuff up themselves, but other people watch that, think that's how an actual investigation's done, and they do the same thing, not realizing that a lot of these YouTube people, I'm not saying everybody, there's a lot of fantastic investigators out there.
Oh, yeah.
But there's also a good chunk of them, they're just trying to get a rise. So they're going into every location saying that there's demons, their buddies are on the corner throwing stuff around and stuff, and people are like, wow, that's how you get real reactions, not realizing that, again, it's staged because it's intended for entertainment because they want to get likes and views. They're not helping the actual research.
Right. And like, this is my own personal opinion on this. Like, I raised my boys. My oldest is 20. The next one will be 19. They're basically Irish twins. The next one will be 19 in August. I raised them on the OG shows. Ghost Hunters, so they've got Taps. You've got the Haunted Collector, the very respectable and distinguished godfather of the paranormal, Johnny Zappis. Along with Brian J. Cano as his right-hand man on that show. You've got Paranormal State, which was the birthplace of how many amazing celebrities that we see in the paranormal field now. You've got Chip Coffey, Michelle Belanger, Ryan Buell, Katrina Weidman, Heather Taddy, anyone with her teal cowboy boots, A lot of these people I'm actually honored to call friends and know them personally now, which is weird. And my kids are like, I can't, like, they're tripping over themselves. The fact that Dustin Perry and I walk up to each other and give each other a hug and we just start, shooting the shit. My son is just like literally, like, he already has a speech impediment, but it like kicks into full blown and he'll just stand there and smile and nod. I think the only one he hasn't completely gone stupid with is Brian J. Cano. He actually, like, him and Brian like just clicked. And like, when my son was with me the last time he saw Brian, we were at the West Virginia Penitentiary, the Paracon last summer, when like everybody's planes got like all screwed up, like right after or right around the mid-Michigan or the MI Paracon with all the tornadoes. And it was like right after that, I think the West Virginia Paracon, and like Brian's plane got delayed for like ever, and he ended up driving straight through the night, had no sleep, didn't know where his luggage was. He didn't get his luggage like 3 weeks later, I think. But like, my son just like clicked with him and we just hung out with Brian all day. And like, my other son's just like we got home and I'm showing him the pictures. I'm like, yeah, we went and hung out and da-da-da. And he's just like, well, but and I'm like, you missed out. You chose your girlfriend. Where? Like, it's just, but it's funny. It's funny to me, but it's like, we've got these people that have worked really hard in the field, like the OGs, the Brian J. Canos, the Dustin Perrys, the Jason Hawes, the, John Zappis. And I mean, the list, I can sit here and spit names till I'm blue in the face. And I think a majority of people listening and watching would agree with me on this. They didn't bust their ass to kick down as many doors as they have for us to be able to not have as much stigma as we do now. They didn't do that just so we can run around and now here's where the hate's going to come. Act like the GAC people. I think that's the acronym that they use, GAC. Because when you look at it, I raised my sons watching that crew too, and they were good up until Nick Groff got let go. In my personal opinion, there's still some episodes I enjoyed after Nick Groff let go, but it just predominantly and persistently kept going in the wrong direction, in my opinion. I mean, if you're going to get possessed 5 times, in under an hour, you should know at this point what you need to be doing. Like you've been doing it long enough, bud. I mean, this should not be a surprise to you. Oh my God. I mean, I watch it and I laugh now with what I do in the field, with where I've been and the people I've had the honor and privilege of meeting and working with in the short time that I've been in the field. It's laughable and it's embarrassing. And we now have 20 somethings running around. Not every 20 something, because there are some 20 somethings in our field that I will go and die on any hill any day, standing side by side with them when it comes to standing up for certain things in the paranormal. You've got, I mean, I'll do a quick shout out. You've got, Zach Wenzel with the Blood Moon Crew. You got Ethan with Wolf Paranormal, Brandon. I always forget how. I just know Brandon is Brandon. We became friends on a lot of these people I became friends with on Twitter before I ever started doing this. There's amazing, investigation teams out there that are making good quality content. And, a lot of these kids, they're, to me, they're kids. They're the same age of my sons, and it's weird. Like I could be their mom, but they're going to school for editing and for videography and whatnot, and they're making amazing quality content on YouTube right now, and they get overlooked because they're not running around screaming demons and asking for 50 more llamas and to extend their solo in the scary attic by 10 minutes, and it's like, it's sad. That really breaks my heart for the people that are being genuine and truly trying to research and better understand the hauntings and the history. And they're trying to, do the preservation, and they're fighting for these locations. Like Zach and his girlfriend Emily were huge proponents of fighting for Joliet Prison. And then you've got people running around like chickens with their heads cut off, making how much money on TikTok every night.
I mean, you have the same thing with podcasts, too. I mean, like,
yeah.
I'll have people come on like you or a bunch of other paranormal investigators. They're talking about the real thing, like the real side of the paranormal. But for the people that are used to watching these videos on YouTube and TikTok and all that, where it's like a 30-second video and within that 30 seconds, a ghost runs across the screen or somebody gets possessed by a demon, all that stuff. It's like you can't keep their interest actually talking about the phenomenon or actually hearing legitimate stories about the phenomenon, because they just want to hear about people getting demon possessed and stuff getting thrown across the room. And it's like, not even just with that within paranormal investigating, every time you go out, you're not going to experience something. So it's just like the people that go to every single location, they'll have some crazy thing happen. It's like I question those people too to begin with, because it never works out that way. Like if you're having a ping in every single night, every single location you go to, I'm gonna take you with a grain of salt. I'm sorry, but
oh yeah. I mean, no. I mean, I kind of feel guilty for the people who. I kind of feel bad. The people that tend to go investigating with me, because I am I'm like a beacon of light. Spirits know I can communicate with them. And okay, now we're coming back full circle. Like, so I went on my next road trip was this past January, and I did my remotely paranormal with Chris, and we did our first episode in December. I did the mysterious Monroe house. Notice I did not throw the demon word in there.
You're talking about, it's across from Blackford County Jail, right?
Yeah.
I went to Blackford County Jail last summer, and I got to walk past that house, but didn't end up getting to go in it. But just from standing outside looking in, I kept feeling like something was watching me from the specific window. And there was me, my girlfriend, and Ryley. I got to give him a shout out. He's one of the newer podcasters on Open Minds Media now. All three of us got the same feeling from like the same window. So I knew that there was definitely something to it. And I was talking to another investigator, and they're telling me about the mirror room and stuff. And I'm super fascinated with that place, but I've not had a chance to check it out yet myself.
So what I do with remotely paranormal is I will go in and like Chris, well, like I said, he's taking a sabbatical right now. So Nick is actually stepping up. And what's cool is that where Chris is real big into finding the history, and he will set I've got, if there's enough rooms to do it in, I will have 5 rooms and a different challenge in each room. And he will find the history or the supposed haunting from the owner or the manager of the location and base my challenge on that with each room. And so it's going to be really cool with Nick taking it over, with him actually being an investigator. Plus we're a couple. He knows my abilities better than anybody else knows them. Because there's things that I still haven't really talked to a lot of people about. I'll probably mention them on your podcast. This will be the first time this is actually the first podcast I've actually talked about me being a medium. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for letting my show be the first then too. I got to throw that back at you.
This is the first time I've actually felt comfortable. So, he knows me very intimately with when I'm like, nope. And when I'm like, all right, let's do this. Like, I will run the gamut. Let's do it. So having it be my challenges be set up from an actual veteran paranormal investigator who knows me intimately and knows my boundaries and he knows how to push my limits too. That with your significant other, with your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, how to push those limits. And you're not pushing them to piss them off. You're pushing to help them grow, and that's one thing we've always promised each other is that we're going to push each other. We're not going to push each other to piss each other off. We're pushing each other because we want each other to be the best version that we can be. First and foremost for ourselves. And then secondly, for each other and our children, for our family. So it's going to be really interesting. But I was on this trip and I did the Monroe House first in December. And so in January, I was like, what if I was able to line up 3 locations all in the same area? And he was like, if you can do it, let's go. So we had our Cerberus event. And anybody who does not know what Cerberus is, that is actually the name of the 3-headed hellhound in mythology. So each of the Cerberus's 3 heads was named. The first night was Hensdale. The second night was Para-Niagara Western Block, and the third night was Wildwood Sanitarium. So to go back to when Chris and I first started, we did the haunts in Michigan, and then we said, okay, we'll get together and we'll also do we'll do the crossover. I'll bring him over to do an investigation with me and show him what it's like on my side of the world. And it just so happened up when I was on my 3-week trip on the East Coast on the way home, I was able to get a hold of Brooke, and Brooke was, we were talking, and I was like, would you mind? Because I'm working with Chris, and I'm kind of kicking this idea around, and she's like, I love this. Now, nobody, if you go and find the poster on Facebook and you look at it, you'll realize that there's an Easter egg in it. Now, Chris made the poster, and I'm standing in front, and I got my arms up, and it's me at Union Cemetery the day after I went to PhantasmaCon in Connecticut on my 3-week trip. So I'm standing in front of Wildwood. There's Wildwood behind me, and there's 2 ghostly faces, and then Chris's face is in the middle, and he's kind of got his hand on his chin. But if you notice, people are thinking oh my God, Chris is going to be there. But what nobody paid attention to is Chris has a headset with a microphone on. So if you really looked at it, you would have gone, why is he wearing a headset with a microphone? How is he going to investigate wearing that? Well, Chris wasn't there. Nobody knew Chris wasn't going to be there until we went live that night. The only people that knew were Brooke and her husband, Chris, and Nick. And so I went live, and then I spent the night completely solo at Wildwood, and that's where Wildwood is near and dear to my heart. I'm doing actually a lot of work with Brooke right now, getting ready to do a full 5-day, 4-night and solo at Wildwood the first week of June, helping with restoration projects around the sanitarium, and we're going to be doing some really cool things with discount codes, and I saw one of them today, and I'm freaking geeking out to drop this. Because this is gonna this is gonna be able to help if you. It's gonna be beneficial. if this is a place you've always wanted to go to, this is going to help you get your foot in the door. Let's put it that way.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. And we are back. So let's hop right in.
So, but we're doing drops, we're doing discount codes, we're doing giveaways, and there's even going to be giveaways for like free history tours and free weeknight, for a free weekday overnight investigation for you and up to 5 of your friends too.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah, I'll be running live almost 24/7, day and night on 4 different platforms. So you'll have to be watching. You never know when it's going to drop. You never know when the giveaway is going to happen. And she's got a bunch of stuff that she's putting in business envelopes. So like they're thicker. I'm not going to be able to see. I just know I'm giving it away. And who knows who's going to get the free overnight? Who knows who's going to get the free tour?
Could be you.
Like, you never know. So you're going to want to watch. But anyway, so like that became our birthplace, our idea of remotely paranormal. So doing this 3-night event was like paramount. Like I was like, we've got to get Brooke in on this. It's our first big event. Wildwood's the birthplace of us doing, like, that's where we got the idea for remotely paranormal. Because I don't just go in there for 2.5 hours and do the show. I stay all night and investigate completely by myself. Now, sometimes there is security on premises. It just depends. But it's not like I've got a group of people or a team of people with me, or Nick's even with me. Now, that only happened once, and that was at Broadhead, where Nick came with me to investigate because we both love Broadhead. But
usually the least amount of people, the better results you end up getting, because the bigger group, the less you notice, because you might be somebody else in your group moving around. Just, you always have better results the less amount of people. Same with like squatching, same with literally investigating any of this stuff. It's like, the smaller the group, the better. 3 seems to be like the maximum number, I feel, where you're still going to have some good responses and good interaction, but at least the better.
Oh, no, I fully agree. And so, like, I always feel bad, though, because when people come with me, I'm a beacon of light, and now with how I operate and my abilities, the way they opened up from this trip that I went on in January, like, I get, like, the communication is insane. So, like, on this trip, I went and did an investigation. I got into Pennsylvania on Monday. Tuesday, I investigated White Hill Mansion on Tuesday night. Wednesday, I did the Clifton 5 Theater in Huntington, Pennsylvania. Took off Thursday night. Friday, I go for night 1 of Remotely Paranormal at the Haunted Hinsdale House by myself. Night 2, I go to Paraniagara Western Block. Now, for those who don't know what Paraniagara Western Block is, if you watch Deathwalker Season 3 and Season 4, Nick Groff goes there. He goes back for a second time due to the amount of activity that he had in Season 3, if that tells you anything. Then I go to Wildwood. Paraniagara, I did have security on location. But Hinsdale by myself, completely nobody else in-house. Wildwood by myself, completely nobody else in-house. Then I go back to Hinsdale on Monday night for a collab with 2 people that I knew at the time. From there, I go to Wildwood to collab with the same 2 people. And then, so that was Monday night, Tuesday night, and then, wait, how'd it go? Monday, wait, I'm trying to figure this out. Okay, so Monday night was Hinsdale. Tuesday night was Wildwood. And then Wednesday night, I did Wildwood solo again. But Brooke was with me up to a certain point investigating, then she had to get home. So I did a total of 4 nights completely solo. And I believe, and I've spoken to other mediums, like one of my really good friends is Tim Shaw. And Tim even was like, no, you're like, wait, your doors are completely like kicked open at this point. Tim Shaw, who does he does a lot with Paraniagara. He does a lot with the Deathwalker. He's been on Portals to Hell.
I think we're thinking of different people, but yeah.
Yeah, he's actually a pretty well-known and well-renowned psychic medium in the paranormal community. Like, I'll send you a picture of him, and I'm sure if, when you see it, you'll be like, oh, okay. Like, you will recognize who he is. But, like I got to talk to him at OSR for when we went to Parapsychon a couple weeks ago, and I was telling him what I'm going through, and he was like, I was waiting for this to happen because I'd collabed with Tim Shaw at a group investigation at OSR back in October, and he knew then. He was like, you are getting ready to go through some major transformation. Like what you have now is nothing compared to what you are going to be. And so that was really cool. And I'm like, well, what am I going to be? Like, he kind of scared me. And then all this stuff started happening. Like, let me tell you that pet mediumship is real. You can talk to pets. That's something that's happened during this awakening. And nobody else, like, I'm finally admitting this for the first time publicly. The first time it happened, I thought Nick was going to probably shit his pants. His jaw dropped. Like, we've got a cat that doesn't like being held more than like 0.5 seconds, and then she's like, she will claw you. She's like Kruger. You better just let her go. Don't even try to fight her. And she curled up in my arms for 10 minutes. And if you've ever seen The Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2, the movie where the daughter Renesmee puts her hand on people's faces to communicate, and like she shows them, she replays back what she sees. This is what the cat does. The cat will jump up in my arms and will like put her paws on me and show me her day. She tells me about her day. The cats do it. The dog does it. It's kind of annoying because every day is the same damn thing. But
I did something so exciting today. I saw a mailman. He came at the house the same time as yesterday. Who knew?
right? Guess what? Guess what? There was a squirrel.
I watched a bird outside all day for 4 hours straight. It was great.
It's big. Yeah. I mean, it's like, okay. But I mean, it's like the first time it happened, like I almost dropped the cat. I'm holding her and it's like, you're letting me hold you. And then like, she looks at me and I'm starting to see all this stuff. And I'm like, why am I seeing her in the litter box? Why am I, oh my God, you're showing me. And I'm like, you're showing me your day. And she starts meowing in response. Nick is like, whoa. Like, he's like, this is not happening. I'm like, you're telling me you're not the one holding the cat looking at her day. Okay? Like, okay, so now I know pet mediumship is real because I always kind of was like, is that real? Like
I've always been curious about the form of communication more so than anything. But I mean, it makes more sense if it's more of like a visual thing rather than like the pet literally sitting there saying, hi, I miss my past owner. How are they doing now?
right. Well, I mean, like when that day when the cat, when Maggie started showing me stuff, then our pit bull Izzy came up and she looks at me and she's like, I'm so happy. Like I could actually hear her. She's like, I'm so happy you can hear me now. I knew you were my mom the first time I saw you. Now, does she talk in complete sentences and chew my ear off? No. She'll be like, when she wants to go and lay on the patio, she'll be like, I want to sunbathe. Please. And then she'll just be like, please, for the rest of the day, please. Like reiterating. She's already said it once to me. It's like she knows she only needs to say it once, but the rest of the day it's please. Mom, please. And you're just like, stop. But, so it's interesting. And like, so with me being with what I can do, now that I can, like, I'm actually able to translate is how I look at it. People are in a room. We've got equipment set up. Like Sunday night, we were actually at the Crooker building in Manchester, Ohio, with Broken Souls Paranormal Marshall and his daughter and her boyfriend, Jonathan. And it's just Nick and I. And we've got tripwires. And I'm able to see these spirits are standing in a back room. And I walk to the back room and I'm like, hey, can you guys like walk out with me? And, we've got the 36-foot tripwire. We got the 12-foot. We've got different kinds of REM pods from different makers are laid out on the floor. Cat balls. And I'm like, hey, can you guys like walk out? Like, and if you walk by this really pretty light on the floor and you walk with me, you can actually walk up and down this strand of lights, and my friends can now see you. Like they can't see you and hear you like I can. And they were like, okay. A couple of them were like kind of hesitant. But after I did that and I walked back to my camera, that tripwire went ape shit all night. I've never seen a 36-foot light up the way it was. Like, they even blew it out. And that's only the second time I've ever seen a 36-foot tripwire blow out. The first one, if you actually go to my TikTok, because you can find me on all social media minus Twitter, because it won't let me change my handle. It's the same one I had when I started, before I started doing all this. But everything else is at Paranormal Trip and Brie. And but if you go to my TikTok, there's actually, it's one of my pinned videos. I think it's the very first one where I'm in the doll room at Wildwood. And I have been having a spirit, which we now know is not a spirit. It's something completely different, that we recently had to figure out a way to get rid of. That's a conversation for another day. Let me tell you, I can go on a rant with that one. But it kept following me wherever I was going. And it would show up necrophonic. We would hear it on SB7, the S box, Estes. This jerk just shows up wherever I'm at. And he always calls me out by my full first name. Brie's my nickname. I won't ever use my full first name. It's not me trying to protect my identity. Brie's my nickname. My full first name's a mouthful. And it's also something that I use when I go to a haunted location as verification. Like, it's my validating word. If you can tell me my full first name, like, I know I'm hearing you, but I want you to say it out loud, because then everybody that's with me, that's validation. You know, I don't have a very common full first name. Everybody's like, oh, it's Brianne. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's nothing what you think it is.
Briandria.
It's not Briandria either.
I was trying to think of an obscure one.
A good try. But you know, so like this tripwire, so at Wildwood, they've got in the doll room, they've got this doll. It came from Spirit Halloween, and it's motion activated, and it's a doll sitting on a horse. It's got no eyes. But when you get it motion activated, it starts rocking back and forth. A red light inside of it turns on, and it does this creepy little lullaby, and then it starts screaming, and it's like, are you there? Or is somebody there? I hear you. Hello? And then it's like, ah, and it starts screaming. And then it shuts off. Well, we're sitting there. And now I walked into the room. None of this is my equipment. I walked in with the rooms. They're setting the equipment up, the two people that I collaborated with. They've got a 36-foot tripwire set up, all lit purple. There's a REM pod on the floor. They put a music box down. Now, what kind of irritated me is the music box, they sat it on the chessboard. That's the wooden chessboard on the floor. It's got like an inch board on it, like to keep the toys inside the chess, like the checker pieces. So it blocked the sensor for the music box. And I'm like, why would you do that? But so anyways, this entity is bothering me. It's coming through necrophonic. And so one of my friends is like, hey, Brie, will you ask it to show itself? I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. Well, one of the people I'm with, they had their dog. The first thing to hit is the dog starts whining and barking. Then the doll goes off. None of us are by this damn doll. The doll goes off. And then it's like this massive surge of energy. It was like somebody taking a 10-gallon bucket and just dumping it right in the middle of the room. It was like, you could feel it. It was like whoosh. And it was almost like the water like coming up the sides, you know? And this tripwire went from purple to red and blew out. Now, for 20 minutes, I'm thinking like this energy is just kind of hovering over the tripwire. And then one of my mods on TikTok's like, change your batteries. I think it blew the tripwire. And I'm like, what? They're like, change your batteries. Try to reset it. If it doesn't work, change your batteries. The reset wouldn't work. We ended up changing batteries, and sure enough, they blew the batteries. And it was every light on the tripwire. That happened again this weekend when we were at the Kirker building. It blew completely red, and I turned and I'm like, here we go. Like, this is awesome. This is what we're looking for. But like, because like, you know, you could be talking to a spirit, and I think a lot of people, they're hoping like they don't have equipment running per se, like a digital recorder or an SB7 or even an S box. necrophonic spirit talker. They don't, and they're I don't know what people are thinking when they ask questions like, "Can you tell me what was done in this building?" Well, how are they supposed to tell you? Like,
Yeah, they
are
don't have a
gonna
means of communication.
Yeah, like we've got the Epic box, and our Epic box, I know that there's more on the market now, but our Epic, when we first got it, was one of the first of the 5 on the market. That was a prototype. It does the red and green for like the green for yes, red for no, but it has the voice with it now, and it's from Ghost Gear Tech. With Rob, he's got some amazing equipment, and I'm like, okay, even with the Epic box is only going to say yes or no. Like, it's not going to tell you if the person was the governor of the state of Ohio in the 1800s. Like, like let's think this through. But what's cool is that like because I can hear the spirits, I can now translate when I'm on location. So they can be asking questions and I'm hearing it. But what's really cool is I've noticed is as I'm translating, I'll start telling them what I'm hearing. Like this is what the person looks like if they choose to. Because sometimes I hear voices and they don't want me to see them. Or they'll touch me and I don't hear them or see them. Or sometimes they touch me and I see them, but they won't talk. It depends on how spirit wants to show themselves. It depends on how they choose to interact. We can't make a spirit do what it doesn't want to do. And so at one point in time, we had a girl, she came down the stairs and Marshall's asking questions and the lights are lighting up but she's telling me her story. And so like I start responding to his questions and I stop myself and I'm like, I'm sorry. I probably should have asked if this is because not everybody wants a translator. They want the interaction. They want the things to make noise and to light up. They want that. And so like I apologize and he's like, no, it's not a big deal. It's okay. Like this is your gifting. Like I've never worked with a seer before. And he was like, and you're getting valid responses. Like earlier in the night, I actually had a spirit that was very insistent that I say her name. She wanted me to formally introduce myself to her, which I did in my head. But she's like, I want my name. No, my name needs to be said for 5 minutes. My name needs to be said. But I wasn't able to say anything because somebody else was talking and asking questions. So finally I was able to say something. And I'm like, I had necrophonic running and I'm like, can you tell me your name I know your name, but can you say your name through this device so everybody else listening can hear it? I walk over to Nick, who's like 20 feet away from necrophonic, away from our cameras. We're running, all of us have live going. We're running on 3 live simultaneously. And I whisper in his ear the name I hear. Epic starts saying yes, 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 yes. And he starts giggling. He's like, really? And I'm like, that's cool. Name won't come through necrophonic for nothing. It's saying like every name but the name. And so finally I'm like, I get behind my phone again and I'm like, okay, I said, just so you know, I'm not trying to be rude or disrespectful. I was just seeing if you were able to use the device that I'm running right now to say your name as well, if you so choose to. And evidently you really don't want to use this. Other people do, but you don't. And that's okay. You don't have to use something if you don't want to. I was like, Mary, it's nice to meet you. As soon as I said Mary, Epic starts, yes, 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 validating again. Well, Shelby's sitting at the table behind us, and Shelby's got her phone out, and she's like, she calls Nick over. I'm talking to Mary, the Epic's communicating. I'm hearing Mary in my head, but the Epic's responding yes, no, and validation of what I'm hearing. And Shelby's like, hey, Brie, can you come over here? And I'm like, yeah. So I stop doing the translating and asking questions, and I step over to Shelby. She's pulled up the history on the Kirker building, and one of the last owners of the Kirker building, wouldn't you know, is a Mary?
Of course.
And then I got a second owner's name later on. So Marshall's like really impressed. He's like, you're just not one of those soothsayer, like, panhandling mediums. He's like, you really are a seer. You really are hearing valid stuff. And so like, he's asking questions and I'm responding. The girl's talking to me. Like she's looking me dead in the face and talking to me and she's answering and I'm looking. So like, I'm like looking back and forth. I probably look like an idiot. Thin air, Marshall. Anybody on TikTok scrolling would have been like, what is this woman doing? Like, I probably got viewers just for a couple minutes because people were probably trying to think, is she talking to the wall?
What is happening
Like,
here?
what is she doing? So, like, and I'm telling him, but what's cool is as I'm telling him what the answers are to the questions, the equipment is going off. The tripwire is lighting up. The epic is doing yes, no. And it's like, that's the thing that I love is that I get, and I want to encourage people, if you're working with somebody who says that they're a medium, for one, vet them out. I don't like to brag. I only recently came out about doing readings and what I'm able to do when I go to locations because I've got a significant other that holds me down unlike anybody I've ever had in my life. And with his love and support, I had the encouragement and the understanding to go and do what to be vocal and say this is what I do and not be scared. But make sure you're vetting the person out. Make sure you take a look at what they do. Talk to other people. Find out. Make sure that they're not just blowing hot air. Because from what I've seen when I scroll through TikTok, especially at night, there's these quote unquote mediums and psychics that are a dime a dozen, and it. All I got to say is if they're using dowsing rods, pay attention to the hands and make sure they're not manipulating their wrists.
Yep.
Pay attention to the tarot cards that they're using. How many are in the deck? How thick is that deck? Are there bent corners? I've caught quite a few myself that are fake. I mean, granted, for me, it's a little easier because I can kind of hear. But if you look for the telltale signs, you'll see it too. Which is why there's certain things I have decided I will not do. If I do readings, I won't do. Just so people have that reassurance and validity of the session that they're having with me.
Mm-hmm.
But make sure if you are working with somebody who's a seer, as Marshall calls us, or a medium, that that they're on their point. I mean, are we always going to be 100% of the time? Unfortunately, not.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. And we are back, so let's hop right in.
And this is something that people forget to look at too, is that when we're being told information, we're being told information sometimes from the spirit's perspective. So like if I'm given a message and I'm being told, you need to get over this and you need to start pursuing this again, but the person's not physically able to, it's you got to understand that there's a different perspective that's coming into play. They're telling it from how they saw it when they were with you or when they were alive. And 95% of it should be right, but there's going to be a couple details that might be a little wonky. And you also got to remember too that details that come through, they might not resonate right away with you, but it's kind of like that. Everything happens for a reason. It might take a day, it might take a week, it might take a month. By God, unfortunately, I hope it doesn't take a year, but it might take that time for something to happen for that part of your reading to finally make sense. And I highly suggest that if you get a reading from somebody that they give you a copy of some sort of taking notes. That's one thing I do is as soon as spirit starts talking to me, I take notes. I timestamp as soon as before I even start writing the first thing spirit says, I will put the time of when the spirit starts talking to me. I've noticed that that's a great way for validating, and sometimes it ties into what that person's going through in that very moment of real life. But I take notes and I let people know I take notes. I will date it, I will timestamp it, and I leave enough room that way as I'm going through your reading with you and I'm telling you this is what came through to me beforehand. Spirit might elaborate and I make sure I've got enough room to add to it. And then what I do is I take pictures and I send them to you. So that way you've got your own copy and, if you can compare what you heard to what you know. And, get an audio recording if you can. Get a video recording. It's a great way to hold, to say, I know I'm working with someone that they know they might not be perfect, but they're not scared of the information that they gave me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just something that I would like to encourage people to do, because there's a lot of people out there that will gladly take your money for a reading. But if you say, can I have documentation? Like, can I get an audio recording, video? Can you take notes? They're like, nope. They're not willing to do that. And if somebody's not willing to do that, I think that should be a red flag. I mean, not saying it is, but it should kind of make you question, like, why don't you want to give me something of my reading,
I mean, I said this a long time ago on the show. I mean, when I first started the show, I didn't necessarily believe in a lot of like the medium stuff, but it takes one good solid one for you to actually start believing in that kind of stuff. And I usually say, good line of reference is that there are people that have abilities. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of people that have natural abilities, but may not be to the full extent that they explain it to. But for every 99% that are just pulling your leg or no sleight of hand, there's that 1% that are legitimate. And once you finally meet that 1%, then your mind will be changed forever. And then from there, you'll be able to spot the people that are just great at picking up on social cues and things and kind of play that to their benefit versus the people that are just able to tell you things about yourself that you've never said out loud before. And they know things in full detail. They know your people and your family's names. It's like, people can say that's internet stalking, but a lot of the people that I've talked to with that kind of stuff aren't necessarily tech savvy. So it's just like, where are they getting it from? Like legitimate. Yeah. They're legitimate,
Oh yeah. Like I've only done, since I started offering public readings, I've only done 2 so far. And both of them, now I am friends with both. They wanted to support me. One of them, we are really close, but we're still getting to know each other. And there were things that came through with her reading that nobody knows. And she was like, I don't know how you know this. And like, she made me cry. And the other one I had today, what was really cool with her was I'm trying to explain the person I'm seeing, and she's trying to give her like love and encouragement. And she's like, and if they don't this, then, and she just says this statement. What's really cool is at the very end of the reading, and we're talking about what she thought of her reading, and did she have any questions? She was like, I was thinking to myself, if this is who I think it is, they need to say this statement. And right when I said, I was thinking in my head, I need to know this is you. If this is really you, you need to say this. You said it. And she was like, and we haven't seen each other since high school. I don't even know who this woman was in reference to her. I'd never seen her before. And so it's like, it's really cool when you get those validating moments, and when you're able to hit the nail on the head. I've been doing this now for solidly the way I do it since January. And I'm not going to lie, there's moments where I'm like, am I crazy? Like, is this really happening? like, because there is that stigma, you do worry about when you grow into something. And I think that's the one thing that like kind of kills me with the paranormal community, is that we're in a paranormal community. We're full of freaks and geeks and weirdos. And, we all hopefully love the same thing. We might be doing it all differently, but that's what makes us unique.
Exactly.
That's what makes it fun, is that we're all going to look at it from different angles. But if somebody, Lord forbid, steps out of their mold that you've seen them in since they've been in the field, then people want to make comments, and that's not cool, and I really want to encourage people to stop looking at people if they step outside of their mold and they do start finally embracing and feeling strong enough to embrace who they're supposed to be. You know, there's a lot of people that do have giftings and they're scared of them. I've spoken to quite a few people in the past few months that have come to me asking, what do I do? How do you do this? And I'm honest, like I'm still figuring it out myself, but this is what I learned for myself that helped me get through the hurdle of accepting and the hurdle of, you know, drowning out all the voices when it gets real overwhelming, you know, and people are scared to say I can do X, Y, and Z, you know, because unfortunately there are the fakes and there are the frauds, but then there's also the people that are like, well, if you did this, you never said you could do this before. I think you're faking, you know, and we can't do that. You know, we gotta stop as a community. We're such a cesspool right now with all the drama and all the hate and the mudslinging. And it's like if somebody is finally finding the strength to stand on their own 2 feet and say, you know what, I can do something really cool. You want to know what I can do? Let's start embracing those people. Let's start loving on them and encouraging them. Let's start helping them find a mentor. Um, I struggled for months and before, you know, I found, you know, I crossed paths with Tim. And, you know, Tim's been very, very helpful with a lot of my stuff. I mean, that we might go months without talking, but when we see each other, it's like, hey, how's it going? Are you doing okay? How's, you know, what's going on with X, Y, and Z? And, you know, and like he helps me, you know, like one of the things I do, and I always say this wrong, is it's kinesis crap. It's like I can touch something and I see the history or I can feel the emotion behind it. Um, Hurricane, what is that?
Parakinesis or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's something like I
Because it's
always
like
get the name wrong.
telekinesis, but it has para before it, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
I believe
parakinesis
it
something like
does.
that?
Yeah, something like that. You'll always see me wearing gloves. I wear fingerless gloves. I even bought a pair for summer. They're really cool. They're very grunge. It's like black hose with like this gray fabric that's like all ripped on top. And I'm like, this is so fitting for my personality and for the paranormal. I love it. I even got a t-shirt made, one of my designs, because I always say my booze in my post. I've actually got one because I even have like I wear like a newsboy type hat in the winter. And I'm trying to find one that's lightweight for summer, but my shirt has my ghost and it says my booze, and my ghost is wearing my newsboy hat and it's got the fingerless gloves sticking out from the side of the ghost. I love it. It's one of my favorite things. My daughter's like, this is the best thing, and you know, hers is, you know, she'll be wearing it as a nightgown for the next year. Well, the way she's growing, I don't know. She might wear it for 6 months and then it'll fit her like a real shirt should. But yeah, so like, but you mentioned like cryptid, and I want to throw this out there at you. So Hinsdale is where I had my most terrifying paranormal experience of my life. Back in October, when I did my 3-week trip, I actually started at Hinsdale. But I had and I could hear the night before my terror, because I was there Friday night and Saturday night. And Friday night, I was out back having a cigarette with one of the guys that had invited me out, and we're facing the pond. So the house is directly to my left. The giving tree up the hill is to my right. I've got the field directly behind me and the pond right in front of me. And you hear what sounds like a wolf mixed with an owl start from the giving tree, go in front of us to the to the pond, to in front of the house, to the field behind us in under 30 seconds. And I'm like, I'm out. I start walking towards the house, and he's like, I thought you don't run. And I was like, I don't run from haunted locations, but that's not a ghost. And last I checked, if that's what I think it is, they make it so nobody can even find a piece of your hair. So I'm going inside, okay? Like, I'm out. But, you know, and that would be a skinwalker, you know, from the noise that it was making. That, and a lot of people have reported hearing that. Now, when I was there for Remotely Paranormal, and I mean, ironically, not at the night after I heard that noise is when I had my most terrifying, freaking night inside of the house. Because both nights I slept in Mary's room. because I figured if I'm going to be a paranormal investigator and I'm going to push my boundaries and be a better investigator, nobody wants to sleep in Mary's room. I'm doing it. I'm sleeping in Mary's room because that's where Nick Groff had his experience on paranormal lockdown. And if Nick Groff can sleep here, I can sleep here. And so I slept there. And yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'll tell you about that before I go into remotely paranormal. So, like, I'm laying there and I'm actually saying goodnight to Nick. And, like, if you're at Hinsdale and you've got an iPhone, just so you know, the only way you can text is if you do iMessage or you do Facebook Messenger. That's the only way messages will work at Hinsdale, even though you're working off Wi-Fi. Yeah, and if you're calling anybody with an Android, you might as well just make the phone call on Messenger too, because it's shoddy with iPhone. So Nick and I are I'm laying in bed, and I'm laying on my left side, so I'm facing the wall, and it's got the hexagonal shaped table with the stuffed animals on it right in front of the window. And I'm saying goodnight to him, and I start hearing knocking. Well, let me put it this way. So downstairs, we've got two females that have joined us from Canada. There's two of the men from the group, and then my good friend Jeff Fint, who makes the Geo boxes, or they're known as Fint boxes, for in the paranormal field. And so Jeff had come to join us that night, and so Jeff's sleeping on a couch. The two girls they're sleeping on their air mattress, and the other guy, Jeremy's, on a couch, and then Mike's ironically in Mikey's room. And then there's a married couple sleeping in the bed in Claire's room right next to me. Nobody in Laura's room, and of course I'm in Mary's room. I start hearing knocking coming from inside of the closet that is reported to be the portal in Claire's room. And so, like, I messaged Nick, and I'm like, well, it's starting. And he's like, put your big girl panties on. And I'm like, dude, they are. Like, I got this. Okay, good night. And I got my phone laying there, and I've got a blanket. Like, I brought my own blanket, and I got it pulled up, and I've got it around curved around my eyes, so I can still see, but it's blocking the light because we had there's an old-fashioned little lamp that's on the desk with, like, the old key that you turn to, like, either the top lights up, the bottom lights up, they both light up, or it's off completely. And just the bottom was lit up. So the knocking in the closet stops. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, then knocking starts on the outside of the windows of Clara's room. And you can tell by the way the knock is. And I'm just like, I start feeling this, like, terror unlike anything I've ever felt in my life. Like, I can't move. And I'm staring at the wall. I'm looking at the dolls on the table, and I'm just feeling like this absolute, like, bone chilling. I want to get up and run, but I can't move. And I'm actually, like, the investigator in me is like, bitch, grab your phone and start recording. like, what are you doing? But I'm like, I'm frozen. I can't move. And I'm here. Now, if you've never seen Hinsdale, the windows that I'm talking about to Clara's room, there is no lattice, no tree. There's no way to get to these windows. There's nothing to climb. You would have to physically drag a ladder over, put it up on the side of the house to be able to touch these windows. There's no way to get to these windows. So I'm like, of course, I'm thinking of the noise the night before, and I'm like, effing skinwalker, Jesus, go away. Like, no, I'm not dying this death, I am not on some YouTube freaking channel right now where they're chasing noises out in the Sahara Desert. What the heck, like. And so I'm trying to make I'm cracking these jokes, trying to calm myself down, and it's not. Like, I'm literally paralyzed. I can't move my hands to even grab my phone if I wanted to. And the knocking on the window stops, and then the knocking starts inside of the house this time, and it's on the wall that the closet's on. It goes down the wall, and it hits the end of the wall where it connects to the wall of the stairwell. The knocking goes down that wall. And it stops. Well, as soon as the knocking stops, you hear footsteps, somebody walking up the wooden stairs. Now, the floor upstairs is the original old hardwood floor. And I'm thinking in my head, please Please let this be Jeff. Let it be human. Please let this be one of the people from downstairs. And so like I'm listening to the sound of the footsteps and I'm like, it's too heavy to be the female because the females were really small. I'm like, this is too heavy to be female. And then I'm like, and this is too light to be the dude in Mikey's room. Not trying to be rude, just based off size. And so I'm like, okay, this is either Jeff Finn or it's the guy Jeremy. And the footsteps get to the very top of the stairs, and then there's nothing. And I'm like, why is there not? Like, I should be hearing something walk right now. Why am I not hearing anything? At that point, I'm still staring at the dolls. The dolls turned black. I'm not saying like it was a shadow overcast and, you know, like you're now seeing a shadow. I'm saying it was like somebody, it was like I'm looking into an inkwell of black ink. The dolls disappeared. That wall is like that wall, the dolls gone. It's all black. And I'm looking in between the table and the bed, and that is still lit up from the lamp. And I'm like, what am I looking at? I can't even turn my head. Like now I'm trying not to hyperventilate. I know whatever this is, like I know, like even talking about it, I get goosebumps just talking when I tell this story. I know that this is not good. Like you just know. I'm not hearing anything, you know, like I'm evil, I'm a demon, I'm gonna get you. Nothing like that. It's just like it's like the hair on the back of your neck is standing up. You're frozen in fear, and you know that this is not good. You just know this is bad. And then the area in between the table and the bed, that goes to black. And you know how you can tell when somebody walks up behind you, and like even if they bend down so they can whisper in your ear, you can feel that presence of somebody right there next to you.
It's like the Sixth Sense feeling.
Yeah. I'm like, somebody's in front of me now. I can feel them right in front of me. And the next thing I know, there's this like exhale. But it's masculine, and it's not a growl. It's not quite a growl. It's an exhale, but it's like it sounds like it came from literally the pit of hell itself. Like it came from deep within, like just this oh. And it's male, like you can tell by like the sound that it's making, and it's right in my face. And I'm just like, but where I've got my face turned, I still can't see. Like I can see the dolls, I can see the wall, but I can't see like really like what's bent down next to me. Because the way the blanket's around my face. And I'm just like, please be human. I remember just being like, please be human. Please be human. Please be human. And I pull the blanket off my face, and there's nobody there. My feet did not hit the floor. I flew out of that room. I jumped off the mattress through the doorway. Now, this whole time, the married couple's laying in the bed, both of them in harmony. They wake up as soon as my feet hit the floor in Clara's room. What's going on? Is everything okay? How did y'all just miss the banging on like the drums on the walls? Like the windows were rattling and you guys are snoring? How? I want what you got.
Right?
Like, give me some of that sleep aid too, okay? Help the sister out.
Tylenol PM.
And they're like, well, what's going on? So I start explaining to them what's going on. Well, where I'm standing and I'm shaking. And they're like, Brie, turn around, because I'm facing the stairwell. I turn around. I don't even realize it. I'm like tears. Tears are just pouring down my face. And I'm shaking so bad. They described it as like the husband said it was like a hypothermic shake. So for those that don't know, like hypothermic is people who are like really, really, really cold.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. And we are back. So let's hop right in.
So I'm telling them what's going on, and I start hearing stuff in the kitchen. I'm like, are you guys hearing this? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, oh, it's got to be somebody in the kitchen. They're just coming up to check on us. Like, you did just jump out of your bed, literally, and land in here. And I'm like, they're like, you woke us up. I'm like, yeah, I know. I ain't apologizing. Shit happens. That happened. Get over But I'm able to look down the stairs, and I'm like, there's motion sensor lights on the stairs. So I'm seeing the night light in the kitchen on, and the motion sensor light on the stair kicks on, and there ain't nobody there. I look at them, I'm like, there's somebody there, but it ain't one of us. Like, I don't see a physical form, let's put it that way. And then in Laura's room, straight ahead from me, like, you can hear something, and it sounded like it had, like, claws drag itself up the wall. And I look over, and I'm looking at the husband and wife, and now they've shut up. They're not arguing that it's somebody, because they're trying to insist that somebody come in upstairs to, like, check on us. Now they've stopped, like, the debate. And they're kind of looking at Laura's room, and they're looking at me, and they're looking at Laura, they're looking, and I'm like, there's something in Laura's room. And so it gets to the top of what I would imagine, like, the top of the wall, and you can hear it, like unhook itself from the wall, and, like, nails back into the wall. Unhook, nails back, and it's, like, dragging itself. And I'm like, this damn skinwalker got into Laura's room. I'm dead. I hope that they can jump out the window and live at this point. Like, hopefully I'm enough of a fluffy girl to keep them satisfied. Like, this was a whole new term to I'm a snacker.
Literally.
So, I got to use that. That's a good one. So, and you hear it go across the wall to the door, and then it stops. And I'm literally waiting for, like, the antlers and, like, the deer head, like, pop around, and there's nothing. Absolutely nothing. I calmed down. It took about 10-15 minutes to calm down and stop crying. And I went and I slept in Mary's room. I did not let the room defeat me. I was very proud of myself. So that's my defining moment, but terrifying moment inside of the house. Now, remotely paranormal, I get done doing remotely paranormal, and I'm on TikTok. And so before remotely paranormal filmed, I was actually on the phone with Nick, and I was outside having a cigarette, and it was supposed to be a full moon. But the cloud cover was so dark, I had actually pulled into the driveway, but, like, flipped my car around so my nose was pointed down the driveway. In case something happened with me being there by myself, I could GTFO if need be. And for those who are listening that don't know, Hinsdale is on a dead-end road, literally out in the middle of nowhere. You want BFE, this is the full perfect definition of BFE for you. So I'm talking to him. Well, as I'm talking to him on the phone, like, I'm hearing all this weird noise on the other side of my car, but I can't see what it is. And it was like that bone chilling fear. And I'm just like, I ain't messing with you today. Put my cigarette out, go inside, queue up. We do remotely paranormal. Get done with it, and I go back outside, have another cigarette, talk with Nick, touch base with him, and, like, now the clouds are gone, and it's beautiful. Like, you can see the full moon, you can see everything around you. And now I'm hearing Indian drums. Now, when I've been to Hinsdale, and I've been there 4 times in under 3.5 months, when you hear the Indian drums outside, you're in for one heck of a night. Like, that is typically the Indian drums and the chanting. When you hear, those are like 2 cues that you better buckle up, Buttercup, because you're in for a ride at Hinsdale. I didn't even finish that cigarette. I put it half out, and I'm like, I'm in. He even heard it over the phone, and he was like, good luck. Gee, thanks. Love you too. So I queue up. I go live on TikTok, and I'm live for about 1.5 to 2 hours, and I'm upstairs, and I'm getting insane shadow activity, direct responses, disembodied voices. People are hearing a man next to me talking. I'm feeling a man's hand on my back. I kept getting touched. And finally they're like, Brie, why don't you go take a break? And I'm like, I don't want to go outside. Like, I'm by myself. You guys don't understand. I heard the drums earlier, and the drums mean, like, buckle up. Like, I don't want to go outside. And they're like, well, get your stuff and go downstairs. So, like, I pack up a little bit of my equipment, and I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna risk it for the biscuit. And I'm like, hey, I can't really smoke on TikTok. That'll flag me, and I don't really feel like going through any bans. But on top of that, because of how Wi-Fi is, you can't take your phone all the way outside. So I just the tripod up in the enclosed front porch, but the camera's pointed at me for safety in case something happens. There's video recording of it. I've got people watching. So I step outside and it's beautiful. And I'm looking and there's the big blue barn, garage. And I'm looking, okay, there's the tree line and I can see the field. And I'm like, and there's the lady in white. Wait, the lady in white's not supposed to be on this side of the house. Lady in white's supposed to be by the pond. Why is the lady in white right there? Like, I cannot figure out for the life of me. I'm like, and this is all happening in under like 10 seconds. Like, I'm running through like all these, like, why is she here? This doesn't make sense. And it turned sideways. The body is like this. So for those who are not able to see, it's the shape of an upside down U. Now it's white and it's gray. And I'm like, I instantly thought to a video I had watched on Paranormal Caught on Camera of a couple in Canada. They're watching a moose eat on the side of the road, and this creature comes out and starts stalking it. Ah, baby. There's my kitty again. So, I recognize it, and I'm like, this is bad. I've only seen this once, but this is bad. And I must have done like a sharp intake of breath or an exhale. This thing turned around, and it starts galloping towards me. I flicked that cigarette, ran onto the porch, grabbed my tripod, ran into the house, slammed that door, locked every lock, turned on the security alarm, and walked into the front room, not knowing what was going to happen. And once again, not going to lie, scared. Not terrified, but I'm scared. But I'm also in shock because I'm just like, this is a myth. This is actually creepypasta. This is a creepypasta that was created in 2018. I remember my son showing me this. This was kind of a clap back to Slenderman. This is not real. This is fake. But wait. And then I start thinking, and I'm talking out loud to TikTok at the same time, and everybody's like, Brie, what did you see? And I'm like, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. So I start describing the video. And people in the chat, they're like, oh, they start picking up what it is. And I'm like, what if we can do something just for shits and giggles, right? Like we create something for the internet just to scare people. But we give so much credence to this that we've now literally manifested this into being. So what I saw would be termed a rake.
What's the name for that? It's not a golem, tulpa. That's it. Tulpa.
Yeah.
When people put enough thought and projection into it. And I'm sure that my listeners have heard me say my encounter story many a time on the show. I'll have to send you one of the episodes where I talk about it. But essentially with my experience at Northville, I saw what I didn't know for a long time, and I kind of associate it as like a rake or like a pale crawler. And the more I dug into it, the more I realized it was kind of like an internet created thing. And once I kind of started digging into it more, I kind of got more down like the Wendigo path, at least from like the Native American depiction of what it is. Because most people think it's like the antlers, the deer head and all that. But the natives described it as like more of like this lanky zombie-like being that would like chew off its lips and stuff. And that's what I ended up seeing. And I ended up capturing like a picture of it. And it's like it's more like an apparition looking picture, which is the other kind of weird part about it. I can send it to you after the show and stuff.
Yeah,
but
I'd love to see that.
You're the only other person I've heard of firsthand, at least, not reading stuff over the internet, that's actually seen one of these things in person besides me then.
Yeah, like it, and same for me. You're the first because like I get flustered sometimes. I stutter. Sorry.
No, you're good.
To this day, I still like I've mentioned it on a couple podcasts because I mean I think it's a great conversation piece. I think it's great to um think outside of the noises and the flashy lights when we're dealing with the paranormal. The paranormal is not just the spirits. The paranormal is it's the cryptids. It's the UFOs. It's the aliens. I mean, it covers a plethora of different beings and species. And I fully believe in. I mean, if we believe that we can manifest good in our life, we believe in the 369 manifestation method, right? Why can that not be applied to speaking life into a horrendous creature?
Because it's goes back into like the law of duality. For every positive effect, there has to be somewhat of a negative effect.
Right.
So I mean, for every positive thing that people manifest, there could be some type of like a back manifest that happens. So maybe a lot of these creatures, a lot of these paranormal experiences, a lot of these weird things that people are seeing are actually the after effect of somebody manifested good, and there had to be a balance, so something bad also manifested in terms of that good thing manifesting.
It's the yin to the yang. It's literally the yin to the yang. It's a counterbalance, you know. The way I look at it, and this is why I get so upset over the whole when people go to locations and they scream demon and they want to go, well, it's my faith. Okay, well, for one, I was a pastor's wife, so if you want to start talking faith, and I was also a youth pastor, we can start spitting scripture, and I can prove that not everything's a demon. If you really want to go toe to toe, hey, I'll take you to coffee and we'll go toe to toe, because faith, either the way I look at it is, either your faith is a sham, or you screaming for the demons is like you can't have one without, you know, like one of them's got to be a sham. Let's get down to brass tacks, you know, let's really start talking the truth here. But if you're going to these locations, you're going to have people that were assholes in real life. And guess what? I can tell you now, being a full operating medium with the conversations I have, yeah, they're still assholes in death.
You're just giving them more power by calling them a demon, because they're manifesting more of that negative energy. They're just accepting the name and running with it.
Right. So you do have these jerks running around in locations that are, okay, this is what you want to call me? They'll run with it. I mean, one of my all-time favorite owners, he's like family to me, like Brooke is. You know, Bill Walter, the owner of Broadhead Manor in Broadhead, Wisconsin. I'll actually be there this weekend for the Spirits in the Spring, speaking on Sunday. You know, he'll even tell you he's got tricksters in his building. They're teenagers, and they joke around and they will call him Satan. And they've caught video, audio evidence of people doing sessions, you know, like with S boxes, you know, oh, Satan, you know, he's here. Who's here? Satan. Where's he at? He's getting ready to walk in, and Bill will walk in the room, and then they'll get laughter coming through the S box. You know, like they think it's funny. So it's like, you got to think, you got trickster spirits, you got spirits who have heard it, and so they're running with it. But you can also manifest that stuff. There is a spiritual realm around us that we cannot see. If you want to sit there and talk about the Christian faith, let's go to the book of Daniel. Daniel's fasting for 21 days. An angel appears to him and says, basically, I'm going to cliff note it down. Sorry, bro, it took so long to get here. I had to fight my way through. What's he fighting his way through? Mm-hmm. Let's think about it. You know, there is a spiritual realm that's all around us. The Bible even talks about the veil between the worlds, you know, and we don't know if that veil is saran wrapped to our body. We don't know if that veil is 5 inches in front of our face or 5 feet away. We don't know if it's as thick as one of those thick canopy drapes that you see in like the 1800 style house that they would use in their sitting rooms and in their parlors, or if it's as thin as like the sheer lace curtains that they would have in their kitchens. You know, your grandparents might even have them now. We don't know if a breeze of wind blows, and is it blowing here and also in the spiritual realm? And if it is it strong enough to make that veil move? And that's why we're getting these glimpses. We don't know, but One thing I know for a fact is if you're going to believe really hard in prayer for good, you also have to believe that your words, and this is for the people that want to say, this is my faith. The Bible even says that the tongue is a double-edged sword and that you can speak life or you can speak death. So if you're sitting there running around like a chicken with your head cut off, begging for your llamas, and you're screaming demon at every little bump and knock and shadow, guess what? You're using your tongue for death. And you very well, just like you pray for good and you believe that your prayers are manifesting good, your words are now manifesting death, and they're manifesting it in the spiritual realm of a demonic form. There's different types of demons that can manifest, and this can bring negative connotations to locations. You got to think that there's locations that have been bought as houses to flip. Monroe was built as a flip house. They didn't buy it to keep it. Pam will even tell you I have nothing to do with the investigation part of it. This is nothing that I want to do. But they know that there is a community out there that wants to research it and better understand it. And they make it affordable for people to be able to do that. So you got to understand that with every good, there is the bad. Like you said, there's the balance. And if we can manifest the positive with, when somebody's going through a hard time, we get on Facebook, we get on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I'm sending you positive vibes. I'm sending you good thoughts. I'm sending you prayers, and I'm sending you all my love. We can do the same with our words too when we're screaming and acting dumb. And you got to think about the ramifications, because what if you actually do speak something horrific into existence, and now the people that are responsible for paying for the mortgage on that location, for paying for the electricity, they're not able to, because now people are scared to come to it, or they're bringing in that you've now attracted the wrong type of audience to that location. You gotta really think before you speak. And how would you feel if somebody was running around your place, screaming that kind of stuff? And it just, there's so much that can be said about this. I've got a lot of thoughts, and it's like I try not to be negative. I want to be a positive influence. That's why, I didn't even start my platform on purpose. My platform literally fell in my lap. I posted about what I was doing and people loved it. Asked me if I was going to continue doing it, and I did. And people got to see my journey of me finding myself and loving myself again and having fun. And, the whole Be Like Brie hashtag was born. And that hashtag is to encourage people to pursue your passions, regardless if it's paranormal or not. Pursue your passions. Go tackle your bucket list. Don't wait for tomorrow. Tomorrow's never promised. In all honesty, you're never going to have the money.
We will be right back after this brief commercial break, so stay tuned. And we are back, so let's hop right in. You just got to make it work. I play the same battle every day, trust me.
Yeah, you got to figure it out. And trust me, there's ways to figure it out. There's ways to make things happen. It's overwhelming. I get it. But trust me, there's locations that'll work with you. You probably know more people than you realize that would probably like to go to one of these locations. Mm-hmm. And these locations are actually way more affordable during the week. Maybe look at doing a weekday thing instead of a weekend. Weekends are consistently booked. Why not help a location out and take a couple vacation days and, have an extended weekend, and go drive out there on a Saturday, stay for the weekend, get an Airbnb. Those tend to be cheaper. Then you're buying your own groceries, and you can have PB&Js, and you can have your chips, and you're not eating all that fast food. You're eating a little bit healthier, and you're saving money that way too. There's so many corners that you can cut. It's just thinking outside of the box. And, I highly suggest that people go do this. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news and being negative, but it's like, I want to encourage people, if things can be manifested like a Wendigo, which is just supposed to be like what, a rock or cave drawing from, Native American, you know, tradition and histories that have been passed down on a buffalo hide. If we're able to manifest what could possibly be a rake, which was a 2018 created creepypasta as a clapback to Slenderman, which was what created in 2012, I believe. Um, you know, there's a negative side too, and it's like you gotta start. We need to progressively start looking for the positive. There's so much negative going on. Well, this person did this and this person did that, and I mean, I'll be honest. Nick and I were on a podcast. We got up early, and we were on a podcast in Australia on Sunday morning, because of stuff that I'm going through, that we're going through, because somebody is claiming to be all about the positivity and the paranormal, but they want to attack and they want to twist the truth to fit their narratives, and I'm not the first victim, and I know, unfortunately, I'm not the last. But it's like, be the positive, find the light, be that positive vibration, go do the Cupid shuffle, put on Saturday Night Live, the Saturday Night Fever, Saturday Night Live, put on the Saturday Night Fever, do the chicken dance, have fun, don't worry about looking silly or looking stupid. It's having fun, because I can guarantee you, if you're having fun, a lot of people will tell you it's about the energy you bring to a location. If you bring doubtful, sarcastic, skeptic energy, they're not going to want to communicate. They're going to stay back. Well, if you go in and you're being positive and you're having fun, they're going to have fun and they're going to want to talk. And there's the kitty again. Hi, baby. So it's like, I just want to encourage people to just, go find your positive, go have fun, go make your trip, how can you be the light in the dark right now? Because let's be honest, I mean, the paranormal's dark enough as it is, especially if we got rakes running around. Jesus.
Yeah, right.
Wendigos. I mean, you and I think we need to talk some more about this, because the fact that you and I have had a very similar experience, I looked for a little bit, and then I kind of scared myself looking, because I was like, I don't want this thing to find me again. Like, I don't want to look at this anymore. But I do want to know more about it. And, so it's like, I would love to talk more with you and pick your brain on it. But, it's dark enough as it is, especially when we're going into places where mass murders have happened and people have passed away, and funeral homes, and there was fires, and Lord forbid everything else under the sun, that could happen in a location. I mean, even something as simple as somebody passing away in their sleep, there's still a death. It's all dark. And with the way people are acting fools in our community right now, and I say community loosely, because I don't believe this is how a community is supposed to act. Community is supposed to pull together and show love and support. And that's not really what we're doing right now. And it's like, let's be the light. I want to encourage everybody to go out there and be the light. What can you do to be a help to somebody? What team out there that's new, that could need guidance? Could you go and take them under your wing? Could you take them on a couple investigations with you? What person have you seen commenting on your lives? I really wish I was able to do something like this. Message them, find out where they're at. If you're not close enough, see if there's somebody close enough that can maybe reach out and they can vet the person. Of course, vet the person. You want to be safe. But see if you can give them that experience. Let's rise up right now. There's too much garbage going on in real life. I mean, don't even get me started on the crappy politics and everything else going on everywhere. I always joke around, that the stigma is finally gone. We finally upgraded out of the single trailer. We're in the white. We're in the house now, in the neighborhood with the white picket fence, 2.5 kids and the dog running around. Like, don't kick my ass back to that trailer, please. Like, I don't want that stigma coming back, and the stigma can come back. People don't think it can. Well,
I mean, it's gone up and down. I mean, look at spirituality,
yeah.
how open that used to be back in early 1900s, late 1800s, and then it went away, and then it came back up again. Like, it comes in waves, just like most things.
Oh yeah. And it's like, if we have these amazing experiences, and we're going to have bad experiences, I mean, and I'll be honest, you're right, not everybody has experiences. I mean, even being a medium, I don't always see the flashy lights flash, and I don't always hear the things that make noise. I've been in locations where I see 20, 30 people surround me. They don't want to talk, but the fact that they know I can see them brings them comfort, like they're not ignored. But because they've been disrespected in a location, they don't really care to communicate, And let's be positive, and let's start showing the spirits some love. Let's start showing them respect. Let's start showing them how we would like to be treated if somebody walked into our home. Even if you're walking into a location that used to be a bookstore or an abandoned warehouse, it's still somebody's home. They were living at one point too, and you never know, we post memes and pictures with these beautiful flowy feel good words on social media of, you never know what's going on behind somebody's smile. You never know what's going on behind closed doors. Be nice today. The same goes for spirits. We never know what was going on in their life. And what if we could go into a location and, as silly as it sounds, show that spirit love? And what if the light opens up and they're able to cross over now because you showed them love and you showed them respect? It's something to think about.
I definitely agree. Hold that thought. We'll be right back. And we are back, so let's hop right in. And I mean, usually I do words of wisdom at the end of the show, but honestly, you've been speaking words of wisdom for the past, at least half hour or so. So, I feel like I wouldn't be able to ask you for words of wisdom because you've already been speaking it. So, you already beat me to the punch on that one. No, you're great. I definitely want to have you back on the show in the future.
Yes.
Cover some more experiences, get more into, the Wendigo stuff and a bunch of different theories and everything on the paranormal. But as far as today goes, this has been a really fun introduction to getting to meet each other for the first time, and I'm looking forward to having you come back on the show again and share some more experiences, thoughts, theories, all that fun stuff.
Oh, I had a great time. I mean, I really appreciate, because I've been on podcasts where you see, I can talk. Talking's one of my non-spiritual giftings. There we go. But I've been on podcasts where, even being a talker, not feeling comfortable, not feeling like it was a safe space to share my experiences or share my gifts with the person on the other side of the screen, or people, I should say. And I want to thank you for making me feel for allowing me to feel safe, and for making me feel welcome and comfortable, and being able to do this with you tonight. So I would love to come back. I would love to talk more with you on theories, and I promise I won't gab as much. And
oh no, it's totally fine.
Conversation.
I absolutely love hearing people talk, to be 100% honest with you. And most podcasters say it makes the job easier, but honestly, I just like taking in people's stories, hearing what they have to say, and trying to create that open-minded environment for people to just have these organic, natural conversations. Because a lot of podcasts will go in kind of really scripting stuff. I feel like, just the way I've been running the show for a while, just leaving the door open for somebody to get into what they want to get into, share their experiences. It just, one, makes the guest a lot more comfortable, and you really get into some stuff that you wouldn't expect to get into. So I appreciate the compliment, because it's exactly like the environment that I've tried to produce with the show. With being an open-minded talk show, is essentially I try to kind of give people their soapbox to be able to stand on, and kind of throw my theories and everything into it, and just, again, try to create a comfortable place for people. So I appreciate the fact that you're able to get comfortable and share some stuff that you typically, may not have mentioned on other shows. And I'm glad that you're comfortable enough to be able to share your experiences for a plethora of different things, and not just, the usual script that a lot of people kind of go on shows and just usually share. I like trying to break people away from the norms that they usually do on shows. So
Oh yeah, no, this one was fun. I mean, I've told my Hinsdale story a lot. I've actually been on podcasts where they they use that for the basis of the rest of the conversation, and I'm completely fine with that because there's some good conversation that can come out of having your first terrifying experience. How you deal with it, how you overcome it, how it can be helpful for somebody if they come and have their own sort of terrifying experience, not at Hinsdale, but anywhere you can have a terrifying experience. I mean, I wake up in the morning and Nick will tell you I'm a terrifying experience if I don't have my coffee. So,
Are we all?
it's just, it's so important and you do a great job and you were so welcome. Yeah, I definitely look forward to coming back. So thank you so much. And I hope everybody enjoyed my ramblings and my stories and hearing about my rake.
Oh, I can guarantee you they did. And for all the people that did enjoy the show, they want to come and check out all of this stuff that you do. Where can everybody come and find you on the internet? Where can they come and find your research? And where can they get in contact with you?
Okay, so I'm across every platform that I'm aware of at this point. I'm on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Am I missing it? Oh, Threads. I forgot Threads. So
everybody forgets about Threads. Clearly not doing that well for Threads.
Now that Facebook finally decided to oh yeah, I guess we'd share to Instagram. Now I guess we should share to Threads. It's now I'm oh, I don't have to worry about Threads. Everything's going there now too. I was real good with Threads for the first month that Threads was out, and then I was I am copying and pasting on 5 platforms right now. Shoot me. This is a lot, especially because if I was on a trip, Lord forbid, if I when I did my 3-week trip, I would be I don't have time. I've got to get from point A to point B. I don't have time to post all these pictures, copy and paste everything, change the @ signs if it's not Twitter and, wherever it's at. It was too much. And Facebook would just automatically throw it onto Instagram. So I didn't have to really worry about Instagram. But then Threads, you had to do it all separate. And I was I don't want to do this. It's too much. But now, yeah, so Facebook, just look, if you want to see something silly, here, I'll show you something. My son found this. This made me laugh. And I'm why did you do this? And he was well, my manager was telling me that he follows you and he couldn't find you, so he Googled you. And I was okay, well, what did he find? And he's Mom, Google your name. So you can actually, if you Google my name, I'm trying to do it so you can see it in the camera, but it's got all my socials. This is all Brie Hollingshead. My kids were this is the coolest thing ever. Oh.
Dude, you've made it to a certain standpoint when you're able to Google your name or your name of your show or something and you take up every page. Because it's that's one of my favorite things too is I can look up Increase of Our Reality now and it's every page is just my show. And it's that's how you know you did something, you've
over, you're I wasn't trying to do this, but by God, I did this. This is amazing. But yeah, so if you just look up Brie Hollingshead, on any platform, Paranormal Trip and Brie, Twitter's the weird one. It's at Brie's Baby Brie, I think. I had it before. That was my handle when I created it. It was before, and it won't let me change it unless I pay for it. And I'm not paying for anything. But yeah, so if you just do at Paranormal Trip and Brie, you'll find that handle, TikTok, YouTube, Threads, Instagram, Facebook. Did I forget any? No, that's 5 right there. Twitter would be 6. So that's where I'm at right now.
And I'll make sure I include all the links down in the show description too to make it quick and easy for everybody can find it too.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah. And then a real quick shout out, I'll be doing, like I said, I'll be doing Wildwood for a week, June 3rd to the 7th. Going live as much as humanly possible, rotating my battery packs and hopefully not killing them or my 2 phones. So I'll be live on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. on that Monday. I don't think I'll be live on Friday morning. I might let it run live for a few minutes as I'm packing up and then sign off and say goodbye because I got to head home. But definitely make sure you're watching that. There's going to be some really good drops, merch discounts, discount codes for setting up a weekday overnight investigation. And I saw some of the stuff that Brooke's been working on, and I'm really excited because I believe that this is going to help people if they haven't been able to get there and they've been wanting to get there. I feel like this is going to be a great incentive for people to get there. For sure. I don't want to give it away. I saw it and I was like, oh, I want to tell and I can't. Like, oh my God.
Oh, make sure you send me those dates too. So down in the show description where I put your links and everything, I can put the dates too so people can make sure they mark their calendars to be able to check that out too. Okay,
yeah. And then that Wednesday, what is that? The 5th? The 5th, we'll be doing Remotely Paranormal at Wildwood. We're going back to where it all started. So it'll be, and Nick's going to be at the helm. And so this is going to be interesting. To say the least. I mean, he knows what part of that house gives me the heebie-jeebies. He knows what part of that house makes me, because there is a part of that house that I don't like. I love Wildwood, but I don't like the attic. The attic, no. The first time when I was there in November, I was sitting in the attic and Chris had me just put a trip light around myself. And he's like, just listen to your environment and like talk out loud what you hear and what you see. And I can hear somebody walking in the doctor's office. And I can hear paper shuffling. And I can hear drawers opening and shutting. But there's no drawers in the counter that's in the doctor's office. And then I'm watching somebody like to get to the attic, you got to walk through you get to it from the doctor's office. And I'm watching somebody like peek their head and like look up and they're getting closer to coming up the ladder. And I'm like, you've only got 5 boards to sit on because then it's all insulation. And I'm like, I have nowhere to go. If something comes up this ladder and I jump, I'm going to add to the population of Wildwood. So the attic creeps me out. And the last time I was there, there was stuff in the corners that kept banging on the walls. And I couldn't make out what it was. And that was really bothersome. When I'm hearing stuff and I can't decipher what it is, that bothers me. So I'm like, I don't like the attic. And I have a feeling he's going to do something with the attic. And I'm just like, oh, God, no.
You're just giving him a reason to do it.
Well, he should be asleep in bed right now. So hopefully.
Unless he hears this episode.
Oh, he'll probably listen to it. I'm screwed. It's official. I'm screwed. Yeah, I just gave it to him.
Well, I appreciate you making the time to come on today. And yeah, we'll have to set something up. I'm looking forward to next time then.
Yes, definitely, for sure. And you have a wonderful night. Thank you.
You too. If you guys enjoyed this episode, don't forget to leave a review or rating for the show on iTunes or Spotify, preferably 5 stars only, but you guys, of course, can be honest. And if you guys leave a 5-star review, I will read on the show, of course, and give you guys a big shout out. And anything you guys do pushes up the show in the algorithms, makes it so more people are able to see the show. And another great way to help out the show is to share the show through word of mouth, be it if it's just one episode or the show as a whole. Anything you guys do, I greatly appreciate. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me for any reason whatsoever, be it that you want to share some fan art, you want to have a conversation, you want to be a guest on the show, you want to have me as a guest on your show, you want to sponsor the show, or anything else whatsoever, you guys can get a hold of me through email, which is increaseourrealitypodcast.outlook.com, or through social media, Instagram or Facebook. Instagram is the one that I'm the most active on, of course, or you guys go to the Linktree and there is a specific contact me submission form, and the other one is for reporting encounter. So again, guys, don't forget to report those encounters to ommencounterreports at outlook.com. And every single thing that I mention is all available in the Linktree, which is available down in the show description. And with that, hope you guys enjoyed the conversation, and I'll catch you on the next one. Have a good night, everybody.
Reality isn't what it seems. Abductees taking aboard a craft with a tractor beam. Is life a simulation or an astral dream? Aliens travel through black holes in different galaxies. Life is a bizarre odyssey. With the mic talking about philosophy. Well, Bigfoot is stalking campers. As a Wendigo walks through the woods of sharpened antlers. Using Ouija board to talk to the dead like a necromancer. There's so many questions and not enough answers. So if you're interested in mysteries and abnormalities, tune in and listen to Inquiries of Our Reality. So if you're interested in mysteries and abnormalities, tune in